diverting late-night football conversation for prostitutes.
How dare you!
Chronic back pain sufferers.
Done the old back again.
And security guards who haven't quite nodded off yet. Wake up!
The Michaels, Graham and Parry on Talk Sport. For when two mics are better than one.
Look at the light! I go, don't worry about the time. They're on the way to work with a cold cup of coffee and a piece of cake and all that.
This is Talk Sport. We are the two mics. It's time to say a very good morning, or should I say a yucky da, or borda, perhaps, to Mr. Mike Porky Parry.
Well, before we get into any of that nonsense, I think...
What do you mean nonsense?
Well, I'll tell you exactly what I'm talking about. I think we should pay reverence to the fact that today is the 100th anniversary of the Battle of the Somme.
It certainly is.
The most devastating battle that the British have ever fought in their lives. Some 40,000 men lost their lives on day one of that battle. It doesn't... You can't comprehend it.
You can't, no.
You can't comprehend it. But... what we have to say is that's where so much of the literature of warfare that we stick to these days and which we remember when we have Remembrance Sundays and all those sort of things came from that generation of young men who never came back from battle. And, of course, the most famous lines are, you know, at the going down of the sun and in the morning, we will remember them.
We will remember them, and so we will. And so
course.
we can all the way through, not just this show, but all the way through the weekend.
Of course.
Because it's not just about football, not just about getting out of Europe. Nope. You know, sometimes, as some people have pointed out, actually on social media throughout the day, you know, people are getting themselves into a right old state about Europe and what's happening. But when you think about that kind of situation, it doesn't even bear comparison, does it?
Exactly. I mean, it's quite ironic, really, that one of the reasons put forward by those who created the European Union, the European project, was to make sure that wars like that never happened again.
Yes.
And to some extent, you can say, well, you know, between European nations, it didn't work until, I don't know, 1948 or something like that, right. And then it all changed. But it's history in the making, and we have to recognise it. So there we are. Now,
I'm very grateful for your bringing that up, actually, because it's very important to say those things.
Of course.
Yeah.
Now, getting to Wales.
Yes.
Yaki dar, I've no idea what Yaki dar means because I don't speak Welsh.
Yaki dar is basically cheers, and bordar is basically good morning.
Is it really?
Good
okay.
Day.
Well, I'm so delighted you told me all that. What I was going to say is that I'm not jumping up and down with excitement about Wales because I don't have any affiliation to them directly.
Well, apart from having a Welsh name. Part of Chester, your hometown, being in Wales.
Yes, but you've got a Scottish name.
Yeah, but I don't pretend that I'm not Scottish.
No, but you don't...
I call myself British. You seem to have a big problem with this British versus English thing.
No, I'm English. And
you're also British.
I agree. I totally agree. I'm British and I'm English. But if I go anywhere in the world, people say, what are you? I say I'm English.
And I'm British and I'm Scottish. What's wrong with that?
No, there's nothing wrong with that at all. All I'm saying is I don't keep pushing in your face, you mad jock or anything like that. like
that's because, technically speaking, that's a hate crime.
Yeah,
that is a hate crime.
I know.
I could actually now pursue you.
Yes.
Not only through the fine offices of the Human Resources Department here at Talk Sport.
Of course.
But I could also take you to court for that.
Yeah, but I would, in reply to that, I would say, but you're constantly trying to deride me as a Welshman because you think Welsh people are of lesser value to the world and to the United Kingdom than English people or Scottish people.
No, unlike you, I've worked in Wales. I love Wales. When we went to Cardiff, you could see that the people of Wales love me because I have an awful lot of time for them and a lot of...
Sorry, wasn't that where the mad guy ran up on the stage and tried to kill you?
No, that was Dingwalls.
Oh, is it? Okay, yeah. Well, I thought...
Yeah, well remembered.
Yeah, it happens in places.
No, Cardiff was where you were supposedly so ill that you could barely get on the stage.
I was ill. I was very ill.
So you claim.
No, I was desperately ill. I had to be helped off the train in Cardiff.
Well, it's not the first time that's happened.
I had to be helped off the train out of the first-class compartment in Cardiff Central, is it called, or whatever. Right. Where all the
stretcher for Mr. Parry.
It was a bit like that. But fortunately, the people helping me off the train were two very attractive young Virgin Airline stewardesses.
Really? What were they doing on the train?
They were on the way to Bristol, where they lived, because they worked at Heathrow.
Okay.
And there's a shuttle bus from Heathrow up to the line that goes out west.
Well, why were they in Cardiff helping you off? Did they miss their stop?
No. They were going to Bristol. I've just told you.
You just said they helped you off at Cardiff.
Oh, yeah, that's right, yeah.
Cardiff's past Bristol.
Of course it
so
is,
either they missed their stop,
Yeah.
Or you somehow had beguiled them in some way.
Yeah, I don't know what went on there. They told me they were going to Bristol, and then they were still on the train to Cardiff. That's a bit odd.
Yeah,
anyway,
it's very odd. How about this from Freddie? Can the fat man predict a Belgian win every opportunity during the show, please? Hashtag Porky Jinx.
Yes, well, you see, and you think that I'm guilty of a hate crime already in the show, and you're reading out tweets like that accusing me of being...
Yeah, I mean, the difference between you and I is that I don't...
Physically unattractive. I find that distressing.
I don't... Well, I think you put one out earlier on tonight when somebody suggested that I looked a bit like Michael Gove.
Yeah, by the way, you're going to get a lot of stick about that.
Well, I don't care.
Yeah.
I mean, it doesn't worry me.
Yeah.
And the fact is that you said, except MG's uglier.
Yeah, well, you are.
Yeah, but I don't mind that either. But
Yeah,
the point is,
well,
I don't complain about the personal attacks that I have to suffer, the slings and arrows that you hurl at me.
On the Welsh issue, right?
I've got your present, by the way, for tonight.
Oh, have you really?
Yeah.
Is it as good as the bottle of champagne that
I think it is, yeah.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
I'm not going to give it to you yet, though.
That's quite interesting.
Yeah.
Now, on the Welsh thing, like 90% of the population of Great Britain, I have affection for Wales because they come from the United Kingdom, and we see...
Well, they're part of the United Kingdom.
Yeah, well, that's what I mean. They come from the United Kingdom. It's the same
thing. They
thing.
come from it. They're part of it.
Where do they come from, then?
Well, they come from Wales.
Which is in the United Kingdom.
It's part of the United Kingdom.
Yes, that's right.
You don't say you come from the United Kingdom, do you?
Well, hang on. Where do you live?
I live in London.
So you come from London?
I come from London.
Yeah, well, there you go. Same thing. I don't know why you split hairs on these things. Honestly.
Because I'm all about accuracy.
You waste so much time.
Because I'm all about accuracy.
Anyway, the point is
that... Have you got shaggy dog stories for us tonight? Or shaggy parrot stories?
Well, no, but I have got one about rabbits which are being systematically poisoned by carrots. Which, That's
the first... you've missed a trick, don't you?
Why?
Because it's the 1st of July. You can't do it now.
Rabbit!
You can't do it now.
I can. But you told me not to do it again because it irritates you, so I didn't.
Really? Well, you actually took some notice of something.
What's Up, Doc?
Yeah. Bugs Bunny.
What's up, Doc?
Yeah. He's a fictional cartoon character.
What's happened over the last 50 years is that carrots have become poisonous because of the pesticides used in them.
Rubbish.
And they are now responsible for rabbits getting internal cancers, and you should never feed rabbits with carrots anymore.
What are you talking about?
No, I'm serious.
I've got wild rabbits in my garden anyway, so they just eat on whatever they eat whatever they find in the garden.
I spoke to my mate Andy Townsend today.
How
is he? He's in France, and he did the game tonight. He was co-commentator on the game.
Was, yeah.
And the only reason I mention it is because Andy's a great guy, and we had a great working relationship. One thing that shocked me about him was when I went to stay at his house in the West Midlands, he brings out his gun and starts blowing away the wild rabbit in the back garden, which I think is a bit cruel.
Yeah.
But anyway, no.
Well, it's not just a bit cruel. It's pretty cruel. Actually.
Yeah, it is. Yeah, but
the time, by the way.
Yeah, don't worry about that. The rabbit situation is a very serious one.
The rabbit situation.
Yeah, which I was going to bring up. Well, the point is, after our parrot story last night, the revelation that a parrot is appearing in court to give evidence, what was
the murder witness? Sorry. Don't effing shoot.
Don't effing shoot. That's what the parrot repeated in court. I want to take him in court to do that. I keep an eye out, as you well know, for stories involving rabbits. And
I didn't know that.
Yeah. Carrots are bad.
Idea.
Now we know what was bugging Bugs Bunny. Carrots he incessantly gnawed were rotting his insides. Animal experts have warned many foods associated with rabbits, including carrots and lettuce, in the modern world are actually very bad for them. Unknown to pet owners, lettuce leaves contain dangerous levels of rabbit opium.
Rabbit opium?
Yeah, rabbit opium, otherwise known as lactucarium.
Oh, yeah.
It's a milky fluid that's particularly concentrated in the iceberg variety of lettuce. It may give a mild sensation of euphoria when smoked by humans. Smoking.
So people are going to start smoking iceberg lettuce?
Iceberg lettuce, yeah. Yeah. And can be life-threatening for rabbits in high doses. The woman who's head of training at a chain of pets stores, right?
Head of training?
Training
the rabbits?
Yeah.
No.
I think so, yeah.
No. She won't be in charge of training rabbits.
It says here she's head of training.
No, she'll be training the staff, you
I suppose so, yeah. Anyway, she says they had one chap in there whose name was Colin from St Albans.
Right, big ears, did he?
Eh?
Yeah, big ears.
No, you idiot. He came in to tell her that Fluffy, his rabbit, had died at the age of 10.
Right.
And when he took it to the vet and all that, he had no idea that lettuce was on a banned list.
Really?
Lettuce is on a banned list for rabbits,
well,
OK?
It's this WADA's list.
And Colin told her, I wondered why Fluffy spent most of the day sleeping. He must have been out of his head most of the time.
Yeah.
Because all he did was chew iceberg lettuces.
Colin sounds like an interesting bloke.
Yeah,
yeah. Get him on the show.
Yeah, we'll have to, yeah. The RSPCA say that high sugar content in carrots cause tooth decay to rabbits. Their teeth will drop out and digestive problems. And other banned bunny foods are avocado, garlic, coconut, onions, chilies.
Chilies?
And this is all
rabbit's going to eat chilies.
Yeah,
for?
yeah. Well, I don't know, but it's all been published because what you don't know, and this is what
Rabbit Weekly.
This is
Rabbit.
But next week is the 10th annual Rabbit Awareness Week, and we all. What is your problem? It's something that we should all be aware of. Okay,
I must find a rabbit and cook it then for Rabbit Awareness Week.
Don't be so
rabbit
cruel.
Stew. Very nice.
The only things you should give rabbits are fresh grass or hay with vegetables. Curly kale is among the vegetables that rabbits can enjoy on a daily basis. Okay.
Yes.
And also the other thing they like is pak choy.
Pak choy?
Yeah.
Very nice. That's quite sort of exotic for an English rabbit.
What is it?
Well, it's a vegetable from Asia, basically. As far as used in Chinese cooking.
All right. Well, now you know.
Southeast Asian. Yeah, very nice. Coming up, we're going to be talking to Carl Robinson about Wales. We'll get stuck into Rabbit Awareness Week, I suppose, when Rabbit Awareness Week actually hits us.
Yep.
Keep your texts and your tweets coming in at the two mics. Porky Quiz time as well later on Welsh pop stars.
Yep.
Talk Sport. This is Talk Sport, we are the two mics. Why are we playing that song? Caught by the Fuzz.
Oh, Caught by the Fuzz?
Supergrass.
Well,
yeah.
I was tonight. Caught by the Fuzz.
What, you mean you were apprehended?
I was stopped by a police car on the way in.
Were you?
Yeah, it was amazing.
Well, speeding?
No. Well, I thought they were going to get me for speeding.
Yeah.
So what happened is, you see, I was coming through out of Surrey into the sort of outer suburbs of London,
yes.
a place called Carshalton.
Oh, yeah. Isn't that the place that flooded the other day?
No, that's Wallington.
Oh, sorry.
But anyway, which is quite nearby.
Yeah.
But anyway, so I'm just going around the ponds manoeuvring. I noticed there's a car on my tail.
Right.
Okay, and I thought it might have been for speeding, except there's a speed camera around there.
Yeah.
So I'm very aware of it.
And could you see it was a police car or was it unmarked?
Well, I couldn't start off with because didn't we...
Did you see the headlights?
Well, I could only see the headlights, that's right. But then I thought, this car seems to be sticking to me, and then when we went past, like, a neon sign or something like that, I realised it was a police car, so I thought, I don't know what's going on here. Anyway...
Did they flash the lights at you?
Yeah, got a bit further down the road, and they put the blue lights on.
Wow.
So I pulled over as a good citizen, and I managed not to stop in a bus stop. They pulled me up near a bus stop, and I thought, well, you can't do that, because you could get a ticket for stopping in a bus stop. Yeah, because there's cameras there all the time.
Yeah.
So anyway...
what happens if you can't find a place to stop, though?
Well, you've got to stop anyway, but, you have to explain it later. I was stopped by a policeman or something.
Yeah.
So anyway... I never know when you stop by a policeman whether you get out of the car or not. I'm not supposed to. I
think you're not supposed to.
Well, anyway, I got out of the car because I had nothing to hide, obviously, you know. And the policeman in the passenger seat of the police car got out, and he's very friendly.
Yeah.
He said, "Oh, hello, sir." I said, "Yeah, hi." I said, "What's the problem?" He said, I'm very sorry," and he didn't have his hat on. He hadn't got formal, you know what I mean?
Right.
Put his hat on, all that.
He wouldn't have one of the big helmets on if he's sitting in a car anyway, would he?
I think they have flat hats down there, the guys in the cars.
Yeah.
And anyway, he came round and he said, just looking at your car. I said, yes. He said, yes. He said, a few of these cars in this area have been used by drug runners.
So you're driving a drug dealer's car?
Yeah, sort of. Yeah,
Brilliant.
and I said, really? I said, He said, this is your car, is it?
Yeah.
I said, yes. And he said, yes. He said, we've had a look at it on our computer, and it seems to belong to, Mercedes or something.
Yeah.
And I said, well, that's because I have a deal with them to purchase it and lease it and all that kind of stuff.
Right.
I said, come to a deal, I don't think about it because I don't pay for it.
You're the registered keeper, though.
I'm a registered keeper of the car, yeah. But, I don't know. Yeah, but,
you haven't done some sort of bizarre backdoor deal?
Well, no, not at all.
Going to be exposed.
Not at all. But if I infringe any penalty, any traffic penalties, the bills go to my supplier, who then send it to me.
Yeah, right.
And they don't send it me quick enough.
Which is rather inconvenient, because if it sometimes takes too long,
yeah, that's right.
then you get hit with a penalty.
Yeah, hit with a double bill or something.
And sometimes they also pay it straight away, and then I'll just bill you.
Yeah, that's right. Then you say, hang on, I'm not guilty.
Yeah, you might
should have paid it.
Yeah,
that's, I've had that situation as well. I said I want a refund and all that.
Yeah.
In fact, funny enough, when I had my Jaguar cars, and ever I got done for not paying the congestion charge into London, I used to ring up a lovely lady and say, no, they've got it completely wrong. I wasn't there that day. Don't pay it. Oh, OK, we won't.
Well,
By the time I left,
was untrue.
Even when it was untrue. By the time I left, I owed about £600 in these congestion charge fines.
Well,
but
and you never paid it?
Never, no. Well, they sent me some letters and I just ignored them.
Well, I hope they didn't go out of business as a result of that.
Sorry?
I hope they didn't go out of business as a result of that.
Well, they still seem to be running a lot of cars in this country. But anyway, point of my story is, the police officer, he was very polite.
Did he ask to check to see if you had any contraband?
No, not at all. He didn't ask me to open the boot or anything.
Right.
He just said, are you going home, sir? I said, no, I'm going to work, actually. Yeah. You're going to work? I said, yes. I said, I'm a radio broadcaster. Oh, are you?
Was he Welsh, this copper?
No. This copper was very sort of normal. Right. Not that Welsh people are not normal, if you see what I mean. He was obviously a local man.
Yes, all right.
And I said, he said, who do you work for? I said, TalkSport. He said, oh, right. So he ran back to the car.
Yeah.
And his mate wound the window down the passenger side, and he said, hey, TalkSport. So the cop inside the car said, what's his name? He said, what's your name? I said, Mike Parry. Oh, it's Mike Parry, yeah.
The Porkmeister.
So I said, yeah, OK. So at that minute, of course, they knew that I wasn't a criminal in any form or fashion.
Mind you, if they had opened your boot, you could have been in trouble, couldn't you?
Why?
Well, because of all the weird stuff you got in there.
I haven't got any weird stuff.
Like the 25 cans of Red Bull.
No.
About 4 big boxes of milk tray.
No, not at all.
A couple of boxes of kettles.
No.
2 spare toasters.
No.
They might think you were some kind of fence.
No, not at all, honestly.
So you got away with it?
Got away with what?
So you got away with being stopped by the police, in other words?
Well, I haven't done anything, so
that's what you say.
Well,
now you've just admitted to ripping off the last leasing car company that you had a deal with.
Oh, well, no, that was a civil thing. You know, that was all to do with extra payments they were trying to load on me for things I wasn't responsible for.
Maybe the police have heard about Porky's lack of sleep. #danger on the road.
Well, maybe, who knows?
Yeah.
But anyway, they gave me a friendly wave, and I was on my way. So
did they have a look at your tyres? Because you could have been done for that as well.
Well, that's still on the dashboard. I've got to take it into the Mercedes dealer in Epsom and get it sorted, but I haven't had time.
Yeah, Martin says, was Mike Parry pulled over for having an overly inflated tyre?
Yeah, it could have been. Well, one tyre says it's at pressure 280, and the other one says it's 220.
Right.
So I'm surprised the car isn't crabbing sideways, so to speak.
I'm surprised it's not just higher on one side than lower on the other.
Exactly, yeah.
Anyway, Dan in Preston says this, Porky, you only do rabbits if the month has an R in it, and July doesn't.
So no, I do it every month. When you wake up, rabbit.
Yeah, I know, but you shouldn't.
Yeah.
Charles says this, the only relation Porky has to anything Welsh is his reluctance to pay losing bets.
No.
Steve says this, are you sure the guy at Dingwalls wasn't just trying to offer Mike Parry a drink? I could have told him not to bother. Jacob says, nice to see Mike Parry chipping into the wave of hate crime in the UK in the first 5 minutes of the show.
What hate crime?
Well, when you called me, a derogatory name for a Scots person. Jambo says, hey, MG, just stick the heat on him. Show him your Scottishness.
Peter Reid's got a monkey's heat.
Yeah.
Listen, talking about crime and all that, I've had some research sent to me this week about the origin of the spy novel.
The spy novel?
Yeah. I mean, we've read spy novels, including James Bond and all that kind of stuff.
Well, I mean, spy novels were written way back, weren't they? Even in the days before people had guns.
1900s.
I was going to say.
1900s, right?
Walter Scott and all that kind of stuff.
And, that's right. Now,
I believe I just said all that kind of stuff.
Yeah, exactly. The people who first wrote them were people like William Le Queux, right?
Le Queux?
Le Queux, yeah, William Le Queux.
How do you spell that?
Queux. William Le Queux.
Queux.
William Le Queux. He must have
French?
Well, I suppose so, because otherwise, why would you call yourself Le Queux? Maybe it came from the Channel Islands, like old Matt Letizia. That's right. Yeah. Anyway,
it sounds like that, doesn't it?
And the next guy to pick up on it was, of course, John Buchan with the 39 Steps and all that kind of stuff.
That's a great story, isn't it?
But I'll tell you what. This is how MI6 was formed. Okay,
right.
What happened was that so many characters in the early books by William Le Queux and John Buchan involved like what do you call them? Dead letter boxes.
Oh yeah.
Where men in tweed coats, right, tweed jackets, would walk around the countryside with a gun under their arm, trying to pretend they were country squires.
Yeah.
They were in fact like foreign spies.
Yeah.
They were like the German spies.
But who were they spying on in the countryside?
Well, they spy on everything, like troop movements. It might be near an army base or something like that. You know what I mean?
Oh, I see. Yeah.
So that led to, once people started reading these books, it led to a rash of people arriving at police stations and reporting their neighbours as being suspicious and probably spies.
Right.
Now, as a result of this, right. They did find that a couple of these guys were the Kaiser's men.
Oh, yeah.
And they found them measuring railway bridges and counting cows to see how long Britain would survive food-wise.
Oh, yes. I've heard this story, I think, yeah.
If there was a war, you know, on the continent.
Yeah.
So the Prime Minister at the time was Asquith, right? You've heard of him, haven't you?
I have, yes.
I wonder what his first name was. What was his first name?
Was it not Hugh?
No, that's Gateskill.
Yeah, well, that was Gateskill. Was it not Hugh Asquith?
No,
as well?
I think it was Lord Asquith. Lord
that's
Asquith.
not his first name, is
well,
it?
no, but that's how he was known as, you know.
What's his first name? Lord?
No. But what I'm saying, when somebody is Lord, they're just known as Asquith, aren't they? You know, like Nelson.
I'm told it was Herbert Henry.
Oh, Herbert Henry, OK. H.H. Asquith, yeah, OK. So anyway, Asquith's cabinet realised that you couldn't tell the difference between whether these guys wandered around the countryside in these tweed jackets with a gun under their arm wearing +4s were actually, you know, the landed gentry or whether they were spies. So
well, it's a bit unfortunate if you actually were landed gentry when you got sort of, you know, suspicious people wandering about going, are you a spy?
Absolutely. So guess what they did?
What?
They went and found a former naval officer, a guy called Sir George Mansfield Smith Cumming.
That's a bit of a long name. It's a mouthful.
Yeah.
As Halle Berry would say.
Yeah, that's a double barrel, by the way, Smith Cumming. Sir George Mansfield Smith Cumming.
It was, yeah.
Who was involved in he was dispatched from the services because he very nearly got killed in a fatal car accident in France during the First World War.
Right.
But he was told to... he survived, by the way, by cutting his own leg off with a penknife. No, that's how he got out the wreckage of the car.
Really?
Yeah, it was hit by a missile, and
Dear God.
He actually cut his leg with a missile, cut through the tendons of his knee
That's
and
awful,
everything.
isn't it?
But anyway...
See the time.
Yeah, don't worry about the time. He formed what became MI6 and dispatched a group of men.
Guy.
The one-legged guy.
Right.
Yeah, the one-legged guy.
Okay.
And that's where the famous story came from. When he was really getting angry with his people, he would take a fork off the table and thrust it into his leg.
Into his wooden leg?
Yeah, because people know it was a wooden leg, and they thought he was the bravest man they'd ever met.
Oh, okay.
How about that?
Sounds like a man after your own heart.
Indeed.
Here's one from Martin, who says, I'm surprised Mike Parry didn't use rat-like cunning and give his name as Mike Graham when the police stopped him.
No, that would
the sort of thing you would have done.
That would have been a good idea.
This is Talk Sport. Coming up, Cole Robinson. We've got, of course, the Porky Quiz a little bit later on as well. This is Talk Sport. Recognise this music?
Yeah, House of Cards.
It's the original House of Cards, isn't it?
Because you've...
the English version.
Your English version. You've lent me the box set for the American version.
That's right.
Is that different music?
It's different music,
Okay,
yeah. And it's funnily enough, it's similar names, similar characters, but it does get quite different as you start to get into it.
Well,
but we should really...
we
start slightly serious start to the show about the song and remembering the 100-year anniversary of that. But we should also not forget that some of the craziness that is going on in the world of politics.
Just incredible.
How amazed were you when Boris Johnson walked onto the stage this morning and declared that he wasn't going to run for Prime Minister?
Well, I had it on at home like I do most of the day, right? You know, I either have a sports channel on or I have a current affairs channel.
Yeah.
And because of the current atmosphere in Britain, I think on a day like today, where there's only one football match, current affairs is actually more interesting.
Yeah, well, it is at the
much
moment,
more
isn't it?
interesting because what was going on. So Boris walks in, and I'm only half listening to it because I'm actually at my laptop doing something else.
And also, it's been so heavily trailed that he's going to announce his candidacy.
Exactly.
That you're not really... It's one of those things you think, oh, yeah, that's going on, so, you know.
And all the contents of the speech were all about, you know, we are brilliant. He delivered a brilliant line, by the way, when he said, you know, we'll trade with anybody in the world, we'll trade with Australia, we'll trade with Singapore, and let me tell our friends in America, you're at the front of the queue.
Yes.
Which was an obvious reference to, President Barack Obama telling us we'd be at the back of the queue if we opted out of Europe, you know. So it was a beautifully crafted speech, and it was all leading to a punchline, which is going to say, so I'm delighted to announce that I believe I'm the man to lead Britain into this brilliant new future I've just outlined.
Right, but
in fact,
he changed the script.
Instead of which, at the end, he said, but... a person is needed to lead Brilliant into this brilliant new future, and that person will not
it's
be
not
me.
Do you think he wrote the speech before he added that bit at the end?
Definitely.
So it was going to culminate in him generally saying, you know, and how much of what we found out yesterday about Michael Gove and him perhaps not seeing eye to eye because of his wife and that email, was that, do you think that was what changed everything?
What changed everything was that Michael Gove declared his candidacy, and what it meant was that when Boris heard about that, he got his people to go out and count the numbers of backbench MPs who would support Michael Gove or him, and found out more were supporting Michael Gove. Right. And Michael Gove then came on and said, well, actually, I know I've said in the past that I would never stand as Prime Minister. And he has,
and he's absolutely categorically said it.
He said, I'll write it in blood.
The one thing that I absolutely do not want to be is Prime Minister of this country.
He said, I'll write it in blood. But he did the usual politician's trick. Yeah. He said, after Brexit was successful, he said, a number of people came to me, very influential people, on this side of the House, on the Tory party, and said to me, Michael, you must stand. He actually said that. Right. He said, Michael, you must stand.
And because Boris Johnson has a lot of enemies, doesn't he?
Well, not only does Boris Johnson have a lot of enemies, but somebody pointed out them, a political commentator, said what most of the backbench Tory MPs were worried about was Boris Johnson getting up at the dispatch box and properly answering the charges put to them by the opposition, OK?
Right. Yeah.
Now, I know what he's talking about because...
What do you mean, just being honest?
No, but about being knowledgeable. Yeah. Because remember when we were talking about the whole Brexit election, the night we did the in-out election, the Euro referendum, do you remember I made reference to the fact I said one accusation against Boris Johnson is always that he's short on detail. Yeah. You know, he has this floppy hair, he has this image, he has his bonhomie with everybody, and
he tries to promote this kind of bumbling buffoon,
and he wears an oversized suit and he flaps his arms around and all that. Right. But in fact, that's a cover for the fact a lot of the time he's short on detail because he's accused of being a politician who doesn't believe in studying his red boxes, and getting the detail, whereas somebody like, Mrs. Thatcher never did anything else except study the detail and all that kind of stuff. Right. So it's going to be very hard for him to shine on things like Prime Minister's Question Time. Right. So Mr. Gove said, I'm sorry, but I had to respond to the wishes of my party, and that's why I've stood.
But I think what's going to happen now is that Gove will probably, if it comes down to him versus Theresa May, which it will, I think he'll lose to Theresa May. So he'll have had his moment, which will come and go as well, and he'll have missed the boat completely. Because I think he's playing it wrongly.
How many political careers have been shattered by this vote? David Cameron has now done 6 years as Prime Minister. Yeah. So when they are both in bath chairs, sitting on the playing fields of Eton, with the Eton Old Boys Association, at least Dave will say, well, Boris, you tried to screw me over, but you didn't, I was 6 years Prime Minister and you never were. And that was the playing fields of Eton scenario about built the British Empire crumbled there.
And certainly there's a school of thought that says that Boris didn't expect to win the vote. Yeah. He wanted to destabilise Cameron and at some point down the road succeed him.
Absolutely.
But not outside of Europe, even though he was going for that. And then suddenly they won the vote, and he suddenly thought to himself, as we were saying the other night, he doesn't want to be the guy to take Britain out of Europe. Whereas Theresa May, actually, in her speech, made quite a lot of sense, it seemed to me.
Well, she made a lot of sense, and also she said, I was a Remainer, she said, but not to a huge extent. Yeah. So what she basically said was, I was like the rest of the country, really. Yeah. I wasn't quite sure which way to go.
No, but she categorically said as well, that it should be no second referendum. The vote was taken. It was a very large number of people that voted. Yes. The will of the people has been exercised, and so therefore we must act that way.
That's right.
And she's, as far as I know, the only one who's properly said all that.
Yeah, no, I totally agree. And there's another thought on the backbenches, the Tory backbenches, that actually she's the only politician now, maybe because she is a woman, who'll get on with Angela Merkel and try and get the best possible deal for Britain outside. Yeah. David Cameron made two fatal errors, because I've been talking to people about this, right? Do you remember just before the last election, he was making bread at home, and he did an interview with, I think it was The Times, it could have been The Telegraph, can't remember, went into their colour magazine, and he made the throwaway reference, no, I won't go to the end of a second term. He said, I've no intention of doing a third term. Well, according to political commentators, that then fired the starting gun for his successor. Yeah.
And that was the whole problem between Blair and Brown, wasn't
it? Of course it was.
Because Blair said he wouldn't, and then he did. And then he went into the third term, and Gordon Brown was absolutely stark raving bonkers about it.
I totally agree. That was exactly the scenario. Yeah. So what happened was, that was the firing gun for his successor, and so potential successors then look for key opportunities to succeed. Right. And one of them, of course, was the Euro vote. So Boris Johnson would never have stood for the Brexit as head of the Brexit lobby, had David Cameron not said he was going to leave at the end of this Parliament.
Sure.
You see what I mean? Because there wouldn't have been a vacancy for a new leader of the Tory party and for a new Prime Minister.
Yeah.
That was mistake number one. Mistake number two, according to the little commentators I've spoken to, was David Cameron's absolutely solid support for gay marriage. Now, gay marriage...
I don't think so. No, I think that's wrong. The second mistake... I'll let you finish in a second. The second mistake was actually holding the referendum in the first place, which he never needed to do. Well, and I said that to you that night.
One leads to the other. What I'm going to say is his absolute solid support, in which he believed in absolutely gay marriage, right? A lot of Tories from the Shires in particular said, look, we're very happy with the arrangements for people to live together, civil partnerships and all that kind of stuff, but we felt that too much parliamentary time was wasted on pushing gay marriage through, which didn't necessarily need to be pushed through. There was another facility there. And what's more, we didn't think it was a priority with all the other problems in the country. They then saw this leads to...
Yeah, but that tells you more about the Tory party than it does about David Cameron, doesn't it?
Well, I think it does. It
tells you that they've still got large pockets of it, which are rather old-fashioned.
I'm not supporting or denying or decrying it. I'm telling you what happened inside the Tory party, according to the commentators I've spoken to. Yeah. And it leads to your very point. What happened then was, in the Shires and in some of those Tory constituencies, voters who agreed that it was misplaced in the order of priorities started drifting away to UKIP. Yeah. And as they drifted away to UKIP, Mr Cameron then felt he had to try and stop them drifting away from UKIP. Yeah. And it was...
and that's why he had the referendum.
That's why he had the referendum.
Yeah. Which was his downfall. But I suppose the one thing that he's now done, and which may make him feel slightly better about the way things have all gone on, if your theory about him and Boris is correct, that they're kind of, still old foes from the playing fields of England,
well,
that by resigning, he basically kicked the chair away from Boris Johnson, who wasn't expecting any of it to happen. He wasn't expecting to be to win the vote. He wasn't expecting Cameron to leave because they'd all said, we want Cameron to stay until, we've decided what to do. And he suddenly was thrown into the spotlight, which he clearly didn't like.
Well, not only did he not like it, he was clearly not prepared for it. Yeah. And he wasn't prepared for it on the... Intellectually, Boris Johnson's supposed to be the brightest man on earth, right? In the sense that he got a 2-1 degree in classics, but classics is such a difficult subject to understand.
It's a 2-1 though, it's not a first.
Well, I agree, and Cameron got a first in PPE, which is a sort of throwaway degree, politics, philosophy and economics, at the same university, Oxford, obviously. And you're absolutely right. It wasn't that he wasn't intellectually prepared for it, it was just that he had no idea of the scale of the job he was about to inherit. Right. And I think you're absolutely right. When it came down to it, he thought, hang on, what are the backbenchers going to say about the ability of me or Michael Gove to actually do this job and do it properly, like a proper Prime Minister, and not some clown who's just turned up, with a brush in his hand to brush the streets, which is what he did when the London riots were on, and he wouldn't come back from Canada where he was on holiday. What was going to happen? And in the end, I think you're right. I think advisors said to him, I think they're going to go for Michael Gove as the Brexit candidate. You better watch out. And he might not have made the final paper, because the final paper is a contest between two candidates, and those two candidates, according to the research that they did, were going to be Theresa May and Michael Gove, and Boris was going to be pushed out.
So it's still a massive car crash, isn't it? It's basically nobody knows what's going on. The Labour Party's not much better. Jeremy Corbyn's still hanging in there by his fingernails, but we're going to talk some more about that probably later on in the next hour as well, because we're going to get a very interesting professor on who's going to talk to us about the effects of Brexit around the world. Coming up next, though, Carl Robinson's going to talk Wales.
The Two Mics, simulcast across the UK on Talk Sport and Talk Radio.
UEFA Euro 2016 France on Talk Sport with Toolstation. Free delivery on orders over £10. There when you need it.
This sullen Welsh heart, it won't leave, it won't give up. The hating half of me has won the battle easily. The sullen Welsh heart, it won't leave, it
This
won't
is Talk
give
Sport
up.
coming up a little bit later on. The Porky Quiz, of course, is going to be on Welsh pop music, Welsh pop stars, so we'll see how well Porky's going to do on that. He is, of course, supporting Wales very enthusiastically. I've never seen him so enthusiastic about an international game, actually, but we're going to talk now to a genuine Welsh former international, Mr Carl Robinson, who's currently out managing the Vancouver Whitecaps. Carl, a very good morning to you. Welcome to the show.
Good morning. Thanks for having me.
Yeah, thanks very much indeed. So, after watching, Poland-Portugal last night, they did. Wales are going to, if they get past Belgium, will play Portugal now. Portugal still don't look as if they're firing on all cylinders. It's a massive game. I know Gareth Bale said it's the biggest game in Welsh football history probably since 1958. How confident are you?
I'm quietly confident. I have to say, it's the last game against Northern Ireland concerned me a little bit more than this game because suddenly when you become a favourites in a game, it's the dynamic changes and there's a little bit of added pressure on you, and that won't be the case against Belgium. Belgium are clear favourites against the Welsh. But football is a funny game and anything can happen, so I'm quietly confident.
Yeah, I mean, one of the things that worries me slightly as somebody who wants to see Wales winning is in the game against England, which is the only game they've lost, they seem to get very tired in the second half. And obviously, I mean, England were moving the ball around quite well without much effect, I suppose, until, the second half. But I mean, Belgium are going to be playing very fast at them, aren't they?
They are, and, credit to England when they played Wales. They had a lot of the ball and they made Wales work and use their energy, and that's how they were able to capitalise towards the end of the game. Right. In the second half, scored 2 goals. But Wales, since then, have got more confident on the ball. We're a good team when we want to be a good team and when we turn up. So it's important, and I know Cookie will have the boys riled up, but important you rest with the ball sometimes as well, because you can't keep chasing for 90 minutes.
Carl, do you think Wales now truly have taken off the coat of being a one-man team?
Yeah, I do, and I think it's harsh on the other players, the Aaron Ramseys, the Joe Allens, the Joe Ledleys. They've got terrific players, the Ashley Williams. They've got good players in this squad, but, Garrett's always going to get the headlines, as Cristiano Ronaldo does for Portugal, but without supporting cast, then, Garrett's not able to do what he does. And, especially against Russia, I think Aaron Ramsey was the best player on the field, head and shoulders. So, he needs those teammates around him. Gareth is crucial to us trying to go on in these further stages, and he's got more experience than any other squad.
That's right, fine. Now, Gareth Bale has said we're a better team now than we were when we played Belgium twice in the qualifying groups when they got 4 points out of 6. But I think the Belgium boys are saying, well, yeah, but we're also better now than we were then. So, it's...
They're missing Vertonghen, aren't they?
Yeah, they certainly are. But they've got Lukaku and a host of other stars. So how do you see it going? Do you think the Welsh are going to have to really, I don't know, it's not going to be a possession game, is it?
No, I think it'll be a transitional game. I think, Belgium with the front 4 players, Lukaku, Hazard, Carrasco and De Bruyne, and Wales with Gareth Aaron and, whoever Cookie decides to play up front, whether it be Sam Vokes or Robson Kanu. It'll be who's effective in transitions, because they're both pretty solid at the back. And, all you hope for is a good game of football, because, the game last night, Portugal and Poland, it sort of, you could sense it was going to be penalties, and teams looked to be playing for penalties. And I don't like that, because unfortunately there's always one team that's going to lose, and you might as well have a go in full time.
Yeah, absolutely. Because I was like you, I was watching that extra time, and I actually put a tweet out saying I'm going to have to watch them paint dry until the penalties come on. Because, as a former player and as a manager now, why would you ever do that? Why would you just kind of decide to play for penalties?
Yeah, it's a difficult one. It's the balance of trying and win the game, but not leaving yourself open to lose the game. And Portugal got through with Ricardo Quaresma scoring in the previous round by not looking interested to try and win the game, and actually won the game. So I think they decided to try and do the same thing. This time it went to penalties and they won the game as well. And they've got a good habit of getting through and not playing well. So I do worry for whoever gets through this game, Belgium-Wales, that maybe it is Portugal's year.
It could be. What happens in the future here, Carl? Because I think Chris Coleman is now man in demand. He has to be. He's shown outstanding leadership as well as technical nous and ability as a coach. Outstanding leadership in the pressure pot of tournament battle, and people are going to be after him after this is all over.
I think they will. Yeah, I think it's the same situation with Michael O'Neill at Northern Ireland as well. And what I'll say as a manager is, you're only as good as your players. And if your players perform and turn up and, you get the plaudits, which is great. And, if the players don't turn up, unfortunately, the manager gets the criticism. And what Cookie's done well is he's brought a togetherness about the squad. And it hasn't happened overnight. It's been over a period of time. And when Gareth says that they're much better now than what they were in the group stages, that's true. Because no one probably expected them to qualify in the group stages. And since that moment and during that campaign, they've got stronger and stronger. and now we're sitting talking about a quarter-final of the European Championship. So he's exactly right.
Right. And I mean, Belgium have only lost to Italy, haven't they, basically in this tournament? So you wonder about, precisely what Italy did. I mean, Italy are a very well-organised team, and I think Italy might end up winning the whole thing. But they've scored an awful lot of goals as well, so they're very dangerous. Hazard's a big danger. Lukaku, as Mr. Parry said, if he's on form, is pretty hard to handle.
Yeah, they're a fantastic team. They're a very, very talented team of individuals, and it's every morning you pick up the newspaper or look online, and a Belgian player seems to be going for about £30 million.
Right.
That's how strong their squad is, and I think they're as good as any squad on paper. Whether they can go and win it is a different question, because as the Republic of Ireland showed against Italy, as Iceland showed against England, anything can happen, and I just hope that's the case as well with Wales. What they will do, they'll show passion, they'll show fight, grit, determination, and you need a little bit of luck in these games.
Absolutely right. Now, how difficult is it for you to watch these games? Because obviously, I suppose with the time difference, it's not bad for you, is it? Because it's about midday tomorrow for you.
It is, yeah. I plan my training around the Welsh game, so I'll make sure me and the guys watch the Welsh game. We'll train in the morning before the game, and obviously I'll watch it with great excitement.
Yeah. Now, you mentioned earlier that, obviously if the players don't play for the manager and it somehow doesn't work out, the manager gets the blame. I mean, let me just ask you about the England situation, because we're hearing all kinds of weird stories about who the FA are going to want to talk to next. Jurgen Klinsmann's name's been thrown into the ring. Arsene Wenger's name has been put in there, even though he says he's not interested. Do you think that Roy Hodgson has been treated badly, or do you think he's a sort of victim of his own ineptitude?
Yes, yeah, it's difficult, and when managers lose their jobs, they're obviously always the target of criticism, and rightly or wrongly so, and that's the position that they're in. I think England have not produced what they would like to have produced. They only won one game out of 4 games in the tournament, so obviously that's a big factor compared to the players that they have in their squad. I hear experts saying about the system, the style of play, and it's easy to stand on the sidelines and criticise, and that's their job, and I understand that, but Roy's handled himself very, very well. He's disappointed. He was as gutted as anyone to lose his job. But now they've got a big decision, because they've got to get this appointment right. And they talk about an English manager. There's only maybe 2 or 3 younger English managers, or Sam Allardyce, that maybe could step up. Or they probably will go, or should go a route of an experienced Glenn Hoddle type with Gareth Southgate, or a younger manager underneath to groom him. So I'm not sure which way they'll go, whether they'll go for another foreign manager or not. But obviously they need to try and get it right this time, because England have got some fantastic, talented young players, and it's a shame that they're unable to get to the latter stages of any tournaments.
Well, the thing is, Carl, you said there very kindly that, Roy Hodgson handled himself well and all that, but I don't think he did. I thought he was appalling. He was incommunicative. He seemed irritated all the time at people asking him questions about why the team wasn't performing, and he took huge amounts of money. We're talking about £14 million over 4 years. I think English fans have got a right to feel a little bit peeved that they didn't really get a lot from him, considering that Chris Coleman is on less than $250,000 a year.
Yeah, listen, I don't disagree with you to some extent, because after the game he obviously handed in his resignation, and that was the end of it. And the next day he sat there and had to do a press conference and made it clear that he wasn't sure why he was there. And I've read and listened to people saying, well, because he earned X amount of money, $4 million a year, whatever, $5 million a year, that's why he should be there. One thing with England, and we all know what the English press are like and the supporters are like, they want answers. Yeah. And that's why I think he needed to be there to give them answers. Whether they got their answers that they wanted, I'm not sure. But it was a difficult and uncomfortable press conference, the second one for Roy, and that's what I'm getting at, whether it needed to be done that way. But they need answers, people, because, hard-working men spend their money to support the country, and if they don't get the results they want, there's always answers needed.
Carl, one final question: if it does go to penalties, are you one of those managers that believes in practicing penalties, or just letting them have a go?
No, I always practice penalties, and we do it probably twice a week at the end of training, if we know there's a competition coming as well, because you never know. There's a reason why the Germans are the best at the penalties, and they practice after training, so I've got into those habits. So I hope the Welsh boys have done that. I'm sure they will have with Cookie. And it's a bit of fun, but if it gets to that point, you find out the men from the boys, let me tell you that.
You certainly do. Carl, thanks very much indeed. I wish you the best of luck for tomorrow. Carl Robinson there at the Vancouver Whitecaps, now former Welsh international, 52 caps. This is TalkSport.
It's a wonderful night, you gotta take it from me. It's a wonderful night, come on and break it on down. It's a wonderful night, you gotta shake it from me.
This is TalkSport. We are the two Mikes. It's Porky Quiz night, of course, and because of the Wales game tonight, we've had a sudden change of structure of the show, which is quite dramatic actually. And Porky said that we didn't want to do a quiz on Iceland anymore, and so yesterday, very late in the day, it was decided to change it to Welsh pop stars. So the independent quizmasters have been working extra hard, doing overtime to come up with these new questions. How about this from Marco, who says the first novel of the espionage genre as we know it is thought to be The Riddle of the Sands by Erskine Childers.
Erskine Childers?
I think I've seen a movie of The Riddle of the Sands.
Have we?
Yeah, I think so.
I've not heard about that. What was that about then?
Well, it was The Riddle of the Sands.
Yeah, well, it was in the desert, was
I
it?
can't remember.
Well, if you can't remember, there's no point bringing it up if you have no knowledge of it, is it?
No, I'm bringing it up because it's been tweeted by one of our listeners.
Really?
You know, I know that you don't like involving anybody else apart from your own self.
No, of course I do.
And your split personality.
Of course I do.
But basically, this has been sent in by Marco.
Yeah.
So that's why.
Well, thanks, Marco.
Now, Trevor says, "Oh no, please, Porky, don't let the Porky jinx affect Wales, my former homeland. Why would you do it?"
Well, you know, we never answered the question about who we're supporting tonight. I am supporting Wales because they're part of the UK.
Well, I know you're supporting Wales because you're very enthusiastic about it and because you have a Welsh heritage. There's nothing wrong with admitting that.
Who will you be supporting?
I'll be supporting Wales, obviously.
Okay, yeah.
Because
fine.
I am British, and so any British team that's involved in any competition,
yes.
I always support.
Yes, that's right.
And William says, lots of Welsh connections on July the 1st. Princess Diana, later became the Princess of Wales, was born on July the 1st, 1961.
Was she?
Did you know that?
No, I didn't know that, but that's very interesting.
This is TalkSport. We are the two Mikes. Loads more coming up. There'll be a podcast coming out a little bit later on. Here's one from a text that's come in. The Riddle of the Sands was on telly the other day. It stars Michael York. I'm sure I've seen it. It says here.
What's it called?
It's called The Riddle of the Sands.
The Riddle of the Sands.
And it's from the novel of the same name. It's set in 1901.
Yeah.
And
where, in the Sahara or something?
No, actually, the story stars Michael York and Simon McCorkindale. Remember him?
McCorkindale. I remember him.
It concerns the efforts of two British yachtsmen to avert a German plot to invade Britain.
Oh, really?
Made in 1979. I've definitely seen it. It's one of those quite good sort of... Jenny Agutter's in it as well.
Jenny Agutter?
Yeah.
But where's the sand bit? Where's that come from?
Why are you so obsessed with the sand?
Well, because that's what it's called, the Riddle of the Sands.
Yeah,
Which sands?
Down.
Are they the sands
maybe
from...
it's Camber Sands, I don't know.
Is it Pwllheli Beach in North Wales, or is it...
I don't know, I don't remember. It came out in 1979.
Some sandy knoll in Italy or something?
I probably watched it sometime in, 1980s or something, I don't know.
Yeah.
I mean, I'll try and find out what the sands mean. Maybe somebody out there can answer
it's all very well to trumpet a book like that, I should say, but if you don't even know what it's about, you're talking vacuously again.
Well, I'm not talking vacuously at all. Why does it worry you?
Well, because I don't like to...
Somebody's got to take the reins occasionally and talking absolute utter balderdash, because normally that's your job.
No, I don't like leaving our millions of listeners hanging in the air. They would all like to know which sort of sands are we talking about,
Well,
for instance, there's a place down in Surrey, not very far from me, called Carshalton Beaches.
Oh, yeah.
Right? Now, you'd say, where's the beach?
Yeah, where is the beach? It's inland.
No, exactly. There's no beaches. No. And do you know why?
Why is it called the Beaches, then?
Well, because it's spelled B-E-E.
Oh, is it? So
C-H-E-S.
it's the tree beach.
Exactly.
It's that kind of beach.
It's like, what was that place in Kent that used to have seven trees?
Seven Oaks.
Seven Oaks, that's right. Yeah, that's right.
It's still called Seven Oaks, even though some of the oaks apparently got blown away in the 1987 hurricane.
That's right. It's only got two oaks now. It should be renamed Two Oaks.
Well, how about this, right? It's about a guy called Carruthers, right? It says here.
Carruthers.
I
know a couple of people called Carruthers. One of them is quite able, and the other one's a bit of a buffoon. Yeah, go on.
Please don't say which way round that is.
No.
He's an official in the Foreign Office, right? He's invited on a yachting holiday by his friend Arthur Davis.
Right.
But Arthur Davis is boating around the Frisian Islands.
Frisian?
No, I'm not sure where they are. Are they in the Channel Islands somewhere?
Isn't that Denmarkish?
Frisian Islands? I don't know.
I think it is. That's where the cows come from, so it must be off Scotland.
What?
Must be off Scotland.
No, it's a different spelling. It's Frisian. Frisian Islands.
Okay.
Anyway, they discover inadvertently that there's some Germans around who are trying to invade Britain.
I see.
Here, it's part of the Wadden Islands, the Wadden Sea, part of the North Sea.
Well, there you go. I told you.
So it says that they are northwest of the Netherlands,
Well,
through Germany to the west of Denmark.
That kind of ties in, doesn't it, with the stuff I was telling you earlier about men in tweed jackets wandering around England counting cows.
It doesn't say anything about the sands, though.
Yeah, well, you know, there was...
can't help you with the sands.
There was a great fear at the turn of the 20th century, that's 1900... to 1912, when Britain was at the peak of its power, that we were going to get invaded by the Ottoman Empire.
Really?
Or was it the Austro-Hungarian?
Well, it wouldn't have been the Ottoman Empire in those days, would
No,
it?
it was, it was the Ottoman Empire.
No, it'd be the Austro-Hungarians, wouldn't it?
No, because the First World War was all about the Ottoman Empire, wasn't it?
Right.
And the Austro-Hungarians as well. They were all around at that time. It's a very complicated situation in Europe. Did you know that in those days Italy was 31 different states?
Yeah.
And there's no country called Italy. You know that, don't you?
I do know that.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah,
well, there you go.
It's taken a very long time for it to be. It says here the Ottoman Empire was chiefly involved in conquest of the Balkans by Murad I.
Exactly.
Between 1362 and 1389.
Who, old Morad? He was active then, was
Unless
he?
he was a time traveller.
Yeah, but it went on for an awful long time. It went on for a few centuries after that. Don't worry about that.
I'm not worried about it.
The Austro-Hungarian was probably more of a threat in those days, I would imagine.
Now, do you want your present or not?
Yes, please.
I've got it here.
OK, what is it?
Now, I've had this flown in. I've had it flown in from France because we're in the Euros, right? Because we're in the Euros, and because we are no longer physically in the Euros, I thought it would be nice for you to have a sort of souvenir of Euro 2016.
That's very kind of you.
And what I have here is something that I think will delight your taste buds. Something that you can only get in France.
Yes.
It's basically a
croissant.
It's a mug cake.
A mug cake.
Yeah. What do you think of that?
Right, look at this. Right.
It's a mug cake. You make a cake in a mug.
Right.
You know how you talk about how Angel Delight was so...
I will just explain to our listeners. This is not a present at all. It's not a mug cake.
It is a present.
What it is...
It's a mug cake.
No, it's a plastic sachet of...
you just fill it with... Put your mug with water. Put that in
Moule chocolat au lait, mon gâteau minute. It's the 1 minute cake.
Yeah.
That's mon gâteau minute means.
Yeah.
And it says on the front, 1 mug... And that's you for giving it to me. 1 sachet, which is irrelevant, plus du lait, which means plus the milk.
Yes, exactly.
And it says prêt en 1 minute 10.
Right.
That means it means microwave for 1 minute and 10 seconds. So you'd have to have a watch to. And on the back it says
your microwave oven could possibly time it as well.
On the back it says versez de lait dans un mug. That means pour the sachet into a mug.
You mug?
Oh, no, sorry. Lait is...
lait is milk, isn't
milk, that's right, yeah. So it's...
So you pour the milk into the mug.
Versez de lait dans une mug.
Yeah.
Yeah,
It's interesting there's no French word for mug, isn't it?
It is, actually, yeah.
Le mug.
Yeah, and then stage 2...
Yeah.
Ajoutez le contenu du sachet tout en mélangeant à l'aide d'une cuillère jusqu'à l'obtention d'une pâte homogène.
Now, what do you think that means?
That means open the sachet and pour the contents into the mug, into the mug, and mix with the milk.
Yeah.
And then,
but then it makes a cake. That's what's cool about it.
No.
It's not like hot chocolate.
Stage
it actually
3
makes a cake.
Stage 3. Faites cuire au four à micro-ondes en adaptant le temps de cuisson à sa puissance.
Actually, that doesn't sound too bad.
Yeah, and that means put it in the microwave, and then God knows what happens.
Mr. Liqueur.
Well, look, I tell you what I'm going to do.
Yeah. I think you should take it home and film yourself making it. I think that would be cool.
No, I'm not.
Then people would be happy to know that you were making a mug cake in your own home.
First of all, I've taken a picture of it.
Yeah.
I'm going to put the picture out and show everybody what a pathetic present it is, right?
It's not a pathetic present. It's a souvenir of France.
And then I'm going to do what I normally do with the present you give me. I'm going to fold it in 2, and I hope the audience will be able to hear the smack of this as it hits the wall or the floor.
That's horrendous.
And
Every single time I give you anything.
And now I'm booting it across the floor. It's pathetic.
Every time I give you anything, right?
I'm going to get up and boot this around.
Every time I give you anything, you just vandalise it.
I'm going to jump up and down it now.
You just vandalise it. Yeah. You better not burst it, because if you burst it, the cleaners will need to come in.
Yeah.
I mean, why are you so ungrateful?
I'm not
so ungrateful.
I just,
I gave a lot of thought to that.
Get another throw against the door.
I gave a lot of thought to buying you that. You know,
you mock me with these pathetic presents.
I thought you'd like it.
How can that compare to a £45 bottle of champagne?
Well, it's not the point. They gave me that for Father's Day. This is a present for no particular reason, other than showing my affection for you.
Oh, yeah, affection, yeah, sure. Yeah, great affection.
I'm staggered.
Yeah, well, you might be staggered, mate, but I'm not, OK?
Here's one from Lawrence, who says, the trees sadly lost in 1987 have been replaced, so I am reliably informed.
Yeah.
So it's back to being Sevenoaks again.
Yeah.
What's the matter with you now?
I'm just typing out a caption to the picture I'm sending out.
Can't you talk and type at the same time?
I could if you...
Can you?
Yes,
you
I
can't
can.
multitask. You're like Gerald Ford.
No.
You can't walk and chew gum.
No, I can,
That's
don't worry.
the problem. Well, luckily we're out of time.
This is the pathetic present, so-called present.
What, you're going to talk while you're typing?
Yes,
Do your lips move when you read as well?
This is the pathetic, so-called present. This will be out in a couple of seconds, folks.
Oh, good. Well, we'll look forward to it. This is Talk Sport. Coming up a little bit later on, we will be talking to Seth Jolly, Associate Professor of Political Science at the Maxwell School of Citizenship and Public Affairs at Syracuse University. This is Talk Sport.
The Two Mics, simulcast across the UK on Talk Sport and Talk Radio.
This is Talk Sport. We are the Two Mics, of course, so there will be a podcast coming out a little bit later on. The Porky Quiz coming out as well. Matt says this, Porky's seriously an ungrateful git. If I were you, MG, I would save my money from now on and treat your boys instead.
Oh, like you paid anything for that rubbish?
Of course I did. I had it flown in specially.
Rubbish.
I did.
No,
I don't know where you get the idea that I didn't go to any trouble. You can't even buy that here. You have to go to France to get that.
God. Now, you might be dismissive like that, right? But I'm actually going to do something for you because, a working colleague, I do actually make an attempt to try and help. Now, would you agree that, and I'm not sure if the audience know this, but if they don't, they're going to know it now, you do have a bit of a problem with shaky leg syndrome?
Shaky leg syndrome?
Yes.
Well, yeah, I mean, it's been noticed in a couple of videos, actually, that my legs sometimes kind of go up and down.
Exactly.
I think it's, my father was a very much more active guy than me. He was always moving all the time.
Yes.
And he's very skinny. There are times when I can sit perfectly still, and I'm often accused of maybe spending too much time sitting still.
Yes.
But, yeah, there are times when I inadvertently, my legs are kind of going up and down for no particular reason. I don't know why.
Well, I have a solution to it for you, because one of my science journals has thrown...
Tie them to the chair?
No, but you put weights on your feet to stop your legs flapping around. A foot wrap could help millions of Britons who suffer from restless leg syndrome, which is what you've got.
Yeah, but I don't suffer from it.
You do,
because it doesn't bother me.
You do. What you do is,
but it doesn't bother me though.
Well, it bothers me.
Well, why does it bother? So it bothers you?
Yeah.
So I don't give a monkeys when it bothers you.
Well, hang on.
Why should I care if it bothers you?
If we're somewhere making a very expensive video in the studio or something like that, and all the camera can detect is a vibration from a table because your leg is swinging
if that's the case,
to and fro.
Well, if that's the case, then whoever is making the video should say, "Would you mind not doing that?"
Yeah,
and I'll stop.
Yeah, well, hang on. I might decide that it's too much trouble making videos with some nutter who's flapping his leg around underneath the table.
Some other mic, you can make it with them.
No. I will just have to rethink our promotional policy or something like that.
Oh, I see.
But anyway, let me tell you, because this is to help. The bandage-like device that's been devised. Excuse me.
Devised. Yeah.
It's much more expensive than drugs, which have been tried to stop the maddening condition, because it's a psychological problem you've got. Okay,
it's not really a psychological problem.
It is.
It's basically it's what my mother or people of your mother's generation would call fidgeting.
Yeah,
you'd say you say to a child, stop fidgeting.
It's much more than fidgeting.
It's fidgeting.
I've seen your leg, and it's like you've got some sort of what's the?
You're thinking of St Vitus dance?
No.
What, a twitch?
Yeah, like a twitch.
No, it's not. It's just.
No, it's like a trapped nerve. It's like you've got a trapped nerve or something.
Because it's not. I mean, I can stop doing it at any point. If I'm doing it, and I freely admit that I sometimes do it without noticing, but if I do it, and you say to me, can you stop doing that, I can stop. If you have an inadvertent twitch, as you put it, which I'm pretty sure is not the medical term, or a trapped nerve, you can't actually stop it.
Anyway,
I can stop. What do you mean anyway? I'm giving you the answer as to what's going on.
And I'm helping you out here.
No, you're not.
Because you're not alone. Up to 1 in 10 Britons suffer restless leg syndrome, okay? Now, the condition runs in families. So you said your father had it?
No, I didn't say my father had it.
Yeah.
I said that my father was one of those men, like some people in life, who can never sit still.
Right.
He was always getting up and doing something. Yeah. My sister's very much like that. He didn't have a twitch, though.
Have you been given by a doctor to try and get over this shocking condition you've got?
It's not a shocking condition.
It is a shocking condition.
Well, first of all, it's not even a condition.
Have you been prescribed dopamine, which actually, in your case,
I'm working with one.
Is a very apt name of a drug.
I've not been prescribed anything by a doctor because there's nothing wrong with me.
Yeah.
You're the one that's got all the pills to take. 16 pills a day, right?
Yeah, but that's to keep my heart going. What you've got is a clear imbalance of brain chemicals.
Is that right?
Yeah, and normally, if you went to see a doctor, he'd give you dopamine, right?
Really? Yeah.
Now then, let me tell you this. But dopamine has been sort of written off by a group of scientists from Pennsylvania.
All right.
This is in one of my medical journals.
So what would dopamine do then? Would that have the effect of, tranquilising me?
It would stop it.
But why, though?
Well, because it calms down all the electricity impulses in your brain.
Yeah, but so it's a downer.
It's a downer.
So you're walking around sort of stoned out your face most of the time. I don't want to do that.
Well, the side effects of dopamine are anxiety, depression, heart attacks and strokes.
Well, then why would I take it?
Well, this is a problem. These doctors are a bit reluctant.
I don't think that's a very good idea. What's your other solution?
Well, the other solution is the weighted bandage that you have to put around your feet.
No, I'm not going to walk around with weights on me.
Yes, I told you it's a weighted bandage.
No, I'm not going to do that.
It's much more effective. A high-tech pressure bandage wraps around the foot and is secured in place.
High-tech pressure bandage, wrap it around your head.
No. Don't be pathetic. And it's secured in place by a system of hooks and straps. And
so I come in looking like some kind of dominatrix who's been at me.
No, what you
hooks
do
and
is
straps. I don't think so.
What we'd have to do is we'd have to set this up underneath the table so your leg wasn't constantly booting the table.
But it's not constantly
and ruining
the
video we're making.
Yeah, but my point is that when we make the next video, if you fear that my leg is jumping up and down too much, just tell me to stop. I'll stop.
There are two essential muscles in the leg which cause the problem.
Yeah.
Two key muscles, and it relaxes these two key muscles, tells the brain to relax the muscles in the legs, helps rebalance the dopamine excess that you have in your brain. The reason you're given dopamine is you've already got dopamine in your brain. It's to counteract it, you see.
So you're saying that my brain doesn't create enough dopamine?
Well, that's it, That's exactly it,
okay.
It's
very kind. I'm very kind of you to be so concerned about what you call my condition.
Now,
but it is not my condition.
Now, the lead author of this report, which I've highlighted, is called Dr. Phyllis Kuhn.
Right.
K-U-H-N.
Right.
K-U-H-N, right.
Right.
She says it's a near perfect example of the body regulating itself without drugs.
Yeah.
The restific wraps, as they're called, are... we'll have to import them from the US.
Well, maybe you can buy me some, and you can spend the first hour before we do a video wrapping my legs in them.
Do you know how much they cost each?
How much?
£260. Now, at current exchange rates, that's about $500.
Yeah, something like that.
Yeah. But the manufacturers are going to make them available in Britain soon, so we can perhaps get onto them. Now, the other thing that can contribute, this is finally, the other thing to contribute to restless leg syndrome being eradicated is to make lifestyle changes, including, and this is very relevant in your case, cutting down on excessive alcohol.
Well, I'll tell you what, there's no chance of me doing that.
And increasing levels of exercise. And what have we here?
Really?
Oh, somebody's brought me something into the studio. What's this? Let me have a look. Hang on.
Oh, it's your mug
Wait
cake.
a minute.
Oh, he's made the mug cake. Top man.
Let me have a look.
Well, why don't you have a look and see? If is it really thick?
Well, I'm not eating it. I'm telling you that now.
Why not? It smells nice. It smells like that chocolate cake you used to get at school. It's like a sort of chocolate brownie.
Well, if you're so keen on it, you take it then. Go on.
Try it. Yeah,
Go on. We'll watch this cup. It's very, very hot. Use the thing.
Yeah. Why are you talking to the microphone?
Yeah.
In the meantime. Yeah, I'll try a bit of it. It looks very nice.
Well, I wouldn't eat it. Do you know what? That's the last thing I'd eat. I haven't eaten an egg in my life, and I wouldn't eat that.
Well, you like Angel Delight, don't you?
I like Angel Delight. Yeah. Oh, I can't believe you're putting that in your mouth. Oh my God.
It's really good.
That's disgusting.
It's lovely.
Oh, don't be ridiculous. This is hideous.
It's cake in a cup.
It's hideous. Please get it out of the studio. You're
really
upsetting me. I'm starting to feel nauseous.
Nauseous?
Yeah.
Are you sure?
You'd eat anything, you would. You're a pig.
It's very nice.
You would eat anything.
This is a present to you.
Not a present to me. You bought that so you can eat it yourself. You spend most of the time in a show eating stuff. You revolt me. You are, honestly.
Tell you what,
do you know what you are?
Very good.
Do you know what you are?
What?
You're like your Labrador dog.
Yeah.
You will just eat
Beautiful.
anything at any time
Beautiful,
of the day.
very
I
handsome.
am disgusted, people. I'm disgusted. Labrador dog type syndrome. That's what I call it. Get out of here.
Thank you very much. That was lovely. Now, how about this? Somebody sent this in from Marco, in fact.
Yeah.
He says, you're going to talk to someone from Syracuse University. Ask about their most famous alumnus, who is known as El Rotundo, MG's namesake. A wrestler who's called Mike Rotundo.
Nah.
That's his real name.
Nah.
Yeah.
Syracuse, that's North New York, isn't it?
It is, yeah. It's up towards Albany.
Yeah.
Or Albany, as you call it. Here's one from Lee, who says, Mike, Graham, you must have a chemical imbalance to put up working with Porky week in, week out. And Ian, no, Ian's not going to... I'm not going to read that one out. Here's one from Matt, who says, I would listen to Porky if I were you, MG, because if anybody knows about having an unbalanced brain, it will be Porky.
It's very harsh. Talking about Syracuse, by the way, remember when we were all in bureaus in New York?
Yeah.
And Brian Vine was the bureau chief. It was before I arrived, actually, because, of course, my heyday was sort of the 80s, early 90s. But remember our old mate...
Well, that's when he was there. He was the chief of the bureau when you were there.
No, he wasn't. I replaced him.
No, you didn't.
No, I did, Mike, honestly.
No, you didn't.
I promise you, I did. I came over and he'd been sacked by Larry Lamb, Sir Larry Lamb.
Well, what about Phil Finn?
Well, Phil Finn then took over.
No, that's what I mean. Phil Finn replaced him.
Yeah, I'm sorry. In terms of numbers, I replaced Brian Vine.
You didn't replace him as the bureau chief.
Of course. No, Phil became bureau chief, and I remember Phil's wife, Anne-Marie, a parting shot to Mrs. Vine, Beverly, who also
used to work for Penthouse.
Exactly, had a top job at Penthouse with Bob Guccione, and who used to buy things like fur coats at Christmas and that sort of thing.
Christmas bonus.
The Christmas bonus, Anne-Marie had been so warped with jealousy over the years at, being only the wife of the deputy bureau chief, she actually said to her leaving do, so bye, Mrs. Effin bureau chief.
Really? That's dreadful, isn't it?
That's dreadful, yeah. But anyway, point of my story is that... So when I told our old mate John Jinks, who was the news editor of the Express, that I'd been appointed to the New York bureau, I was going over there.
Well, didn't he know you had?
No, it's done over his head.
Well, they must have told him that.
Well, they did, but anyway, we were talking about it afterwards. He said, you'll have a great time there. He said, it's a pity Brian's coming back. I said, well, I'm actually replacing Brian in terms of numbers, And he said, I remember, last time I was over there, because John had gone over.
Yeah.
He went to the New York bureau, and there was...
Did he not refuse to go back? Was it not the case that he didn't? When he did finally go back to England, he actually went back to work for somebody else?
Went back to the Daily Mail.
Yeah.
It wasn't refused to go back. He said he would only go back on a commensurate salary, and as he was paid at $2.4 to the pound in America when it was nearly parity back here, they couldn't do it, so he left. But anyway, what the story is, John Jinks said last time he went over, he went up to the bureau, and this is typical about how bureau chiefs used to act in those days. Yeah. I mean, they weren't like bureau chiefs; they were like editors in their own right, running little empires, weren't they? No,
they were. Yeah.
Old Paul Connew and Brian George at the Mail, and so he rang Brian Vine, John Jinks. Jinks, get up here at 10:30 tomorrow morning, and we'll get down to business. John said, yeah, OK, that's fine. And John was hoping to learn something about the operation in New York. And he walked into the bureau and he said, oh, John. He opened a bottle of champagne, had a few glasses and all that. And there was a bloke sitting in an adjoining office knocking out, a feature on a typewriter, as we had in those days. Yeah. And he said, have you finished that yet? And, the poor soul in the other office said, no, I'm still working on it. Oh, yeah, well, get on with it. So after about an hour, he said to this bloke in the other office, he said, right, Jenks and I are off to Syracuse now, to the races. Oh, yeah. And there's a stretch limo waiting outside to take them,
That's a hell of a ride in a stretch limo.
I think
take them a long time.
No, I think the stretch limo was only taking them to the station.
Oh, OK.
Or the airport, probably the airport, flying up there or something, And then his parting shot was, so, have you got it straight, Dacre? Get that feature out of the way and don't, bloody well.
Well, he used to send him to get his dry cleaning, didn't he?
Send him to get his dry cleaning. Anyway, the point of the story to our millions of listeners is that Mr. Dacre subsequently went on to become the most powerful editor in Fleet Street, and he's still there.
And he's still there.
Mr. Vine, unfortunately, withered on the vine, so to speak. And
he's no longer with us.
And he's no longer with us.
No,
and
very true.
Mr. Jinks, I think, is living in a retirement home for knackered old journalists.
There we are. So, just remember who you're talking to on the way up, because you might meet them on the way down.
Exactly.
That's the moral of the story. This is Talk Sport. Coming up next, we're going to talk about the effect of Brexit with Seth Jolly from the University of Syracuse.
Everybody all around
Sport. I'm Mike Graham. He is Mike Parry, of course. The Electric Light Orchestra were also at Glastonbury last weekend.
Yes.
Did a set in the afternoon, which was magnificent.
Yeah.
I have to say, very enjoyable.
Yeah.
And we may be out of Europe, but I'm very much enjoying my mug cake.
Well, hang on. I'm going to read you some...
imported from France.
I'm going to read you some responses to this. Somebody brought this back from France. You gave it to me as a so-called present.
I had it flown in specially. I've told you that.
Rubbish. It's called Muller Chocolate au lait, but in English it's written above mug cake.
Mug cake.
So it suits the purpose that you're eating it. And Dean, for instance, says, "Come on, Porky, make your cake in a mug now. You must have a microwave in the TalkSport kitchen."
And that's what we've done.
Well, we've actually made it. Yeah. And Rob says,
"We've made it," and Dave Levine, executive producer, has been filming that whole thing. So we'll put it out on Two Mikes TV very shortly.
And Rob says, "Porky, you should pour the sachet milk into your mouth and then stick your head in the microwave. The cake would then form in your mouth."
That's a good idea.
That's very cruel, Rob. And then you know what would happen if a human being stuck their head in a microwave.
Well, you wouldn't be able to speak for a while, which would be quite good, actually.
Irish here says, relevant to our last story about me trying to help...
guests to talk to, by the way.
Yeah, I know, trying to help you with your shaky legs. I think your legs shake because your nerves are wrecked working with Porky.
Yes, that could be true, actually. Now, the world has been watching Britain over the past week, I guess, because it was this time last week, was it not, when you and I were in the studio watching the referendum results coming in as they came in, and it was around about this time that things started to look as if they were going slightly towards leave rather than Remain, because everybody predicted that Remain was going to be the result, and of course they all got it completely wrong. We're going to talk now to Seth Jolly, who's Associate Professor of Political Science at the Maxwell School of Citizenship and Public Affairs at Syracuse University. Seth, a very good morning to you. Welcome to the show.
Thank you very much. Thanks for having me, Mike.
Have you ever seen what can only be described... I don't know if you've ever seen a show called The Thick of It, which is a sort of political satire, which is coming more and more true with every day that we seem to see these various politicians vying for, who's going to be the next Prime Minister, who's going to be the next leader of the opposition. I mean, it is a massive, just massive mess, isn't it?
It is a huge mess, and it actually took some attention off of our own mess back here in the States, where we have... Trump and Clinton vying for that same sort of attention.
Yeah, absolutely right. But I mean, obviously, we're probably following it maybe slightly closer than you. I'm not sure if we are, but everybody expected yesterday Boris Johnson, who was the kind of architect of the whole Leave campaign, very much the face of it, very much the guy who had been the mayor of London and was this kind of very well-educated, highly intelligent individual who we believed wanted to be Prime Minister, suddenly gets up and says he doesn't want to be Prime Minister.
I think he was really surprised by his perceived betrayal by Michael Gove. I think he thought that he had his support. And so when he woke up and saw things had changed, I think he was surprised and I guess decided that the mess that David Cameron had left him was just too much to deal with.
Prof, can I ask you this, please? I mean, the developments today in this country and over the last week have been sensational. A former Prime Minister of ours, a gentleman called Harold Wilson, once said a week is a long time in politics. But the way things are going on both sides of the Atlantic, 24 hours is becoming a long time in politics, isn't it? Both on your side of the pond and on ours. Have you ever seen such a turbulent and an active period of political upheaval as what we're going through now?
I think you're absolutely right. When I went to bed on the 23rd, I still thought that Remain would win. And then by the time I woke up on the 24th, everything had changed. And then after that, all of the turmoil comes around when and even if it will even happen. And so that's one of the things that is most interesting to Americans is if, from our perspective, when referendums happen, that's law, but that's not the way it works for you all. Yeah. And so it's interesting to watch how and if it's going to play out that way.
That's right. And sorry, Mike, and it's not only the ruling parties in America and in Britain, which are in total turmoil in terms of what comes next, the opposition are as well, because you might find that Donald Trump may not end up as the candidate to oppose the Democrats at your next general election. And we, as you will know, because you're a professor of political science, the opposition here on this side of the Atlantic is smashed to pieces. They can't even take advantage of the chaos which is besetting our government.
I think that's the most remarkable thing. I think on both sides, as you said, Trump famously only has 100 employees across people working in his offices across the country. So the idea is that he's devastating the Republican Party for for a decade or more. And Corbyn has, as you said, not taken advantage, and in fact has lost ground somehow, which I didn't even think was possible. I thought the Tories were going to be in enough trouble on their own, but
absolutely right.
Corbyn has his own mess to deal with.
Well, he really does. I mean, the other thing I suppose that we wonder, I mean, we don't really worry about it, but I mean, Barack Obama said famously before the referendum that, you know, Britain shouldn't be at the back of the queue, it should still be part of the European Union. Having seen his advice kind of go down the drain as well, he had to come out and say, you know, the British special relationship still exists. I mean, what is the sense from the American public? And we know that an awful lot of the American public, you know, may not be able to exactly pinpoint every European country. But do they care? Do they care whether the European Union has Britain in it, or would they prefer that Britain wasn't in it?
I don't think most Americans know enough about it to know. It's just it's kind of like you were saying. But I think the bigger problem is that Americans do see is that if Britain leaves, the EU itself starts to look weaker and starts to maybe see other countries start to peel off, like the Netherlands or other things like that. And the other part that's obviously very powerful here, because we do have a lot of Irish and Scottish and English descent people, is what happens with Scotland, what happens with Northern Ireland and the Republic of Ireland. So those things are definitely top of interest.
Yeah, no, that's I totally take that on board. And the other thing, Prof, is do America still regard, even though the Cold War's supposed to be over, the Russian bloc as a threat to stability in the world? And that's one reason why you want a united and solid Europe.
I think we see, as does the UK and Europe, there are enemies around. And I think Russia's one concerning country at various times, but there's also obviously ISIS and other places in the Middle East that are threats to America.
They're more difficult to define as a visible threat, aren't they? In the sense that, of course, they're a huge threat, but you can't really go out and find them like you can find Putin in Russia.
That's absolutely right, and I think it shows how hard it is, how hard all the various countries in Europe and in the U.S. have had trying to deal with this. I mean, the problems start in Syria and Iraq and other places, and they haven't been dealt with there, and then they filter out.
And how do you perceive, Seth, as you say, the Trump phenomena is similar in a way to what's been happening in lots of parts of Europe, particularly in Britain, where, you know, the kind of political elite have been given a bit of a shock by the ordinary people who have said, actually, we don't really like any of you, you know, we'd rather go with somebody who's never done it before, and, you know, we're fed up with the way that politics is run. How do you think that all started? I mean, where has that all come from? Has it been the development of social media? Has it been, you know, just people being sort of downtrodden by austerity or whatever?
I think all of those things feed into it. You're exactly right. I think in Italy, you have Beppe Grillo, who was a comedian by trade before he joined in. Right. You have Geert Wilders. You have your friends in UKIP and various other party leaders across Europe who are feeding off of the mistrust. And I think some of it is just people who have been left behind in globalization, so they're not doing as well as they maybe did during a time when everybody had factory jobs or whatever. Right. But those days are over, and times have changed.
But why have they suddenly gone? I guess my question is, why have they suddenly gone from sort of being disinterested in politics and watching, you know, the voter turnouts going down to suddenly, you know, deciding to do something about it? That's, for me, the interesting bit.
Absolutely, that's the interesting bit. I think in this election, as with Trump, I think that's where the similarities are really clear. The key voting group are people who don't trust any political institution. And so it's not that they trust the small parties or anybody else. They don't trust anybody. Right. And that's true for Trump as well. And I think that's why Trump does well, even when he says nonsensical things quite a bit, but nobody cares because he's not part of the establishment, not part of the other. And I think it's been a long time building. But you pointed out the crisis in the late 2000s, and I think that's when it finally hit.
Sure. And, Prof, can I ask you for this? Something unique is happening in politics. It's often said that if women ran the world, there wouldn't have been any wars because they're more pragmatic than men who get hot-headed and they have testosterone running around their bodies. We could very soon see three of the key positions in world politics. That is, the Prime Minister of England could be Theresa May, the President of the United States of America could be Hillary Clinton, and, of course, Angela Merkel will still be there in Europe's most powerful country, Germany. Sorry?
Angela Merkel.
Angela Merkel, yeah, that's what I said. In Germany's most powerful country. Would you expect that, as a professor of political science, to reshape the way politics works?
I think there would be a lot of changes, especially in the U.S. The UK obviously has had experience over a long period of time with a female prime minister, but we have not had anything like that, and so I think it would change it. But I would flip it a little bit and say that Obama is as kind of clear and steady a leader in that sort of regard as anybody, and so is Merkel, and those are two good examples. So I'm not sure that that would change all that much. But with David Cameron resigning so quickly, I think that's what threw all of this into a big turmoil. I think a lot of people expected that if Brexit won, that he would start the process, but he didn't, and instead he left a poison pill for whoever picks it up next.
Very much so.
That seems to have worked. Seems to have worked very well. Seth, I appreciate it. Thank you very much indeed.
Thank you, Prof.
That's Seth Jolly. He's actually associate prof, if you really wish to give him his title.
I like to treat people with respect. You know, when a man works
you don't treat me with respect.
Well, you don't deserve the respect that a professor of science at a university in America...
Which university?
Syracuse. Deserves.
Yeah.
And
so
I
want to try some of my mug cake.
If a man... No, you can mug off with your mug cake. If a man works for 20 years and achieves the title professor, then I address him as professor. You know, I mean, for instance...
Associate professor.
You know,
if
there was a colonel in this room now, and his name was Colonel
of Truth.
Colonel Tim, Jones or something like that, you'd just call him Tim, would you? You wouldn't call him Colonel?
I would call him Tim, yeah.
Well, I'd call him Colonel.
Yeah,
I have respect for people
who... That's because you have a pathetic inferiority complex to anyone who has done something that you haven't ever achieved.
I have respect for achievers in life.
Like you said yesterday, your dream to go back and be a Spitfire pilot, or your dream to be on some battleship, because you obviously suffer from, some kind of syndrome, which makes you feel inferior to people who've done something worthwhile with their lives, instead of creeping about as a tabloid gutter snipe.
The only thing I suffer from is sense of duty.
Really? Yeah, well, you wouldn't get into the armed forces, it's too short. This is Talk Sport.
The Two Mics, simulcast across the UK on Talk Sport and Talk Radio.
Crazy, but that's how it goes. Millions of people living as ho-ho-hos.
This is Talk Sport. We are, of course, the Two Mics. I'm just still enjoying this mug cake, and there's now a video on the Two Mics Twitter account. I'll put it out on Facebook a little bit later on as well. And, of course, we've got lots and lots of reaction to that interview we just did. Yes. Graham says this: Porky reignites the Cold War. And Andy in Glasgow says every woman leader has gone to war. Gandhi, Mayhew, Thatcher and Bodicea. Sorry to spoil the peace myth. He does have a point there, doesn't he?
Well, Golda Meir certainly was the outstanding leader of Israel.
And Indira Gandhi, but I mean, she was quite militarily minded, wasn't she?
Well, she was hugely militarily minded. In fact,
I'm saying the idea that women somehow would cause less wars, I think it's nonsense.
She oversaw the build-up of the Israeli armed forces to the levels which they are today, because they hoped that you could live in peace, in a reconstructed Middle East after the Second World War, but that wasn't to be.
Yeah.
No,
Here's one from
right.
Roy, who says, yes, prof, no prof, 3 bags full prof. Porky's nose is so far up where the sun doesn't shine, it's nauseating.
Excuse me, all I do is treat people with respect, and I have contempt for those who don't.
Respect. And here's one from...
Who was the American... What's his name? Roddy? Who was the American... no respect, no respect.
Oh, yeah, Rodney Dangerfield.
Rodney Dangerfield, he's dressed in the prison uniform, I never get no respect.
Yeah. That was just a quote from the Godfather. Now, I've got some news for you. Did you know, as a collector of Beatles memorabilia, and all things to do with the Beatles, did you know, for example, and somebody had tweeted me this earlier on in the day, that the drum kit used by the Beatles to record Love Me Do
is for sale.
Is being auctioned off, How
much are they expecting to get for it?
It's a Ludwig kit, it is. It was supposed to be, the bidding price was somewhere between $150,000, or above, I should say, $150,000, which is about £113,000.
Yes.
And I think it was being put on sale basically yesterday American time. So by now it should have been sold, but I haven't found out whether actually it has been.
Where is it?
It's in America somewhere.
See, I wonder what that's doing in America, because Love Me Do was the Beatles' first sort of real single.
Yeah.
And I think it got to number 13 or something like that.
Right.
But it was made in... I don't think it was made at Abbey Road, actually. It was made at some studio...
Somewhere before that.
Yeah, somewhere before Abbey Road. But I mean,
together.
you wonder, who in the end loaded up that drum kit into an aeroplane and flew to America.
Here's what's even more interesting. It was played by one-time Beatles drummer Andy White, who briefly sat in for Ringo Starr during the recording of the track. Yeah. White was asked to re-record the hit with Starr on tambourine, so presumably they didn't like Ringo Starr's drumming. They put Ringo Starr on the tambourine and brought this guy Andy White in.
I don't understand that.
Why?
Well, there's always the famous quote, isn't there, that was never actually said about, Ringo Starr, not even the best drummer in the Beatles, allegedly said by John Lennon.
And then denied. But I mean, but certainly, it was known that Ringo Starr was brought in after Pete Best left.
Oh, yeah.
But according to this, anyway, and this is a report in a musical journal, if you like, it says that the guy Andy White sat in at that time for quite a few of the tracks.
Well,
maybe they preferred him to Ringo Starr.
It could well be, because John Lennon admitted years later that it was painful to see Pete Best leave the group and Ringo Starr take over.
Yeah.
But in Brian Epstein's mind, Ringo Starr was not as good a drummer as Pete Best, but he was a better Beatle.
Yes, he was. Yeah.
And that meant that the image was improved.
That's the point. So it didn't matter really what went on behind
So it
the
could
scenes.
well have been at the start that so Ringo joins the group, and is it just at the start he just didn't get their beat or something like that, and then somebody else to sit in. Of course, by the time the Beatles became famous, Ringo Starr was the only drummer, except for one time. Do you remember when they went to Australia and Ringo had the flu, and they had to take another drummer with them?
Oh, okay.
Whose name I don't know, but definitely.
Maybe it was this guy.
It could have been.
It was this guy White, and he apparently was a good friend of a guy called Reg Weller, who he studied drumming with.
Reg Weller.
And it was Reg Weller's collection where this drum kit has come from.
Is that right? Yeah, that's amazing. Now, I want to tell you about a rather disturbing development in the world of cricket.
Oh, yeah.
Genteel game.
Right.
How about this? County cricket sides are using breathalyzers to check whether players have drunk too much to take the field.
Really?
Yeah.
What, you mean... When you say county cricketers, you mean like professional players?
Yes, I am.
Well, that's
I mean
fair
professional
enough.
players.
Well, I mean, I thought you were going to tell me something about like the games on the village green, which presumably you're allowed to have a sort of a pint of frothy beer with as you play.
Well, hang on. Don't you think it's more alarming that professional cricketers are being breathalyzed to see whether they're drunk
I suppose
before
so.
they start playing cricket?
No, what I'm saying is I would applaud the idea, because you don't want cricketers playing drunk, particularly now when they can get such terrible injuries.
Yeah. 10 counties have been issued with breathalyzer kits ostensibly to use as an educational tool.
Oh, yeah.
But it is understood that some of the clubs have employed them to check that players are not too drunk to play. The step comes amid increasing concern in the professional game. I mean, this is amazing.
Yeah.
You need to talk to Darren Goff about this at some stage.
Yeah.
Increasing concern in the professional game about cricketers binge drinking, right, which has become a regular custom the night before matches.
Wow.
I mean, imagine the footballers all going out for a massive bladderation
Well, yeah, but there was
session.
a time when they did, wasn't there?
Well, there was. You're absolutely right.
There was a time when some of them were having drinks on the at half time, and also on the subs bench.
Yeah, absolutely.
With the little flasks.
Right, it comes after an incident in which Matt Coles, a bowler for Kent, had to miss the NatWest T20 Blast game against Sussex Sharks while an investigation was carried out into a drink-related happening.
Really?
Premier League footballers are tested almost daily by their clubs using a saliva swab, but in county cricket, monitoring for substances is largely confined to random tests undertaken by the anti-doping authorities.
So I was going to say, presumably they're under the auspices of the World Anti-Doping Authority because they're professional sportsmen.
Sure, but this is where it's the kernel of it is here. Look, Mark Ramprakash, who we all know, the former England Middlesex and Surrey batsman, has warned that rising salaries for young cricketing stars is in danger of creating a culture of binge drinking. If young players show promise, they're onto quite good salaries these days, he said, very quickly. You've now got young players rewarded at a very young age, maybe 19, 20 or 21, and on the back of a few good innings, they go out and over-celebrate.
Yeah.
Isn't that amazing?
That is amazing, yeah. But, I mean, I suppose that might tell you more about the society in which we live now, where, bladderation, as we like to call it, not in moderation, is going on all the time.
Yes.
Isn't it?
No. Well, I think you could be right. Everybody's worried about the economy with Brexit and all kind of thing. But we are a very wealthy society, basically, aren't we, I suppose?
Well, I mean, I was out last night, out doing a bit of dinner and was walking around a few of the bars and stuff in this part of the world. I mean, they are all rammed. The restaurants are all rammed.
I know,
and I know that London is not always a barometer of these things, but I mean, you cannot get a seat in a restaurant, you cannot get a seat in a bar. Yeah. I mean, people have got plenty of money to spend still.
Well, I'll tell you what, down in old Stockbroker Belt, right, I'm not joking, if you want to take the family out for a Sunday lunch now, you're booking sometimes 2 and 3 weeks in advance. Yeah. It's absolutely amazing.
Incredible.
And I'm not talking about top restaurants. I'm talking about
you don't go there, do you?
Country house hotels, and there's
Toby Carvery's.
No, not Toby Carvery's. No, places which are, expensive. Like, there's a place right on the edge of Epsom Downs called the Rubbing Barn.
Yeah,
I've told you about it before.
That, The Rubbing House, I thought it was.
The Rubbing House, that's well done. It's what it's called, the Rubbing House. And when we want to go there, it's incredibly difficult to get in.
Yeah.
And I don't know. We'll have to see how it goes. Keep an eye on the economy, that's what I say.
Yeah, absolutely right. You fear poverty, of course. This is Talk Sport. Coming up in the next hour, of course, it's the Porky Quiz.
Get down! Paid the cost to be the boss. Paid the cost to be the boss. I paid the cost to be the boss.
This is Talk Sport. We are the Two Mics. A very nice note here from Seth, who's tweeted us at the Two Mics.
Right.
So just had a great chat with the Two Mics on their Talk Sport show in the UK about Brexit and what's next for the UK. Yeah. We'll post audio soon.
Oh, that's very good.
So he's obviously very well up to speed on the old technological front, isn't he?
Certainly is.
So he's going to post audio of the interview that we had. We'll have to retweet that for him.
Well, of course we will. I always find it a compliment that when we talk to professors in America, professors of politics, they know so much about what's going on in our country.
Do you know what his Twitter handle is?
Go on.
It's not Prof.
Yeah.
Right?
Is it a sock prof?
No, it's Seth.
Seth.
As I called him.
Yeah,
as I said you would call people.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah,
so you're wrong again.
No, I'm not. You show people respect for the titles that they've gained through a life of hard work. Okay.
It was an absolute pleasure to speak to him, anyway.
Yeah.
Yes. Now, coming up in the next hour, I presume you've boned up on your Welsh pop music for the questions that are going to come in. It is largely a musical quiz, I think.
Absolutely.
Which is going to be very good. Now, what I'm concerned about, right? Yeah. And there isn't very much time here. Yeah. But, you profess to be concerned about me. You talk about my, jiggly leg syndrome as if, and you told me the other day I might be going blind. You've also told me that, giggling is somehow bad for me.
It's only out of concern.
But you don't actually care about me at all, and I can tell this because you have no interest in my life, right? Absolutely none.
What makes you think that?
Because I told you yesterday that I had to go down to my son's school and watch him making a piano recital.
Excellent, that sounds great.
We got 2/3 of the way through the show, and you haven't mentioned it.
Well, it's of no interest to the listeners, that's all.
Of course it's of interest to them.
No, it's not.
I mean, you want to ramble on about how you were pulled over by the cops.
Well, I was.
And the fact that,
people are concerned.
Because, you drive around a drug dealer's car in South London.
That's a bit harsh, isn't it?
And you have no interest in any of my anecdotes of my day.
Well, is it anecdotal to talk about, your parental duty, going to school to watch your son play the piano? I don't think it is.
It was a very sweet moment in my life, and it was a very sweet moment for him.
Really?
And so I just thought I would share that with them. And,
How did it go anyway? Come on, you're dying to tell us, obviously. Bore us to death with a bit of
I'm not going to take like 15 minutes to tell the story.
Oh, right.
Because it's not all about me.
Right.
He did very well. It was. I always feel slightly uneasy going into primary schools because it's not the sort of place that I'm necessarily feeling terribly at home.
Why? Because you're so old.
No, it's nothing to do with being old. It's
you're an old father. It's your second family.
No, it's to do with being surrounded by teachers, basically, and teachers are very much the least likely people that I would be, sort of friends with.
Hang on,
really.
Teachers are an essential part of our society to teach our children about things.
Of course they are, but they're just the sort of.
You don't like teachers?
No, it's not.
Why
that I
don't you like
them.
teachers?
My mother was a teacher. It's not that I don't like teachers. It's just that teachers, generally speaking, are not the kind of people that I would get on with.
This fixation about teachers and not liking them.
I have no fixation about teachers.
It's a terrible thing to say. I think teachers are the finest, some of the finest members of our society.
Is that right? Is that why you're always making fun of the teachers you had at your school?
When I grew up.
Mr. Plank or whatever his name was. Here's one from Bill, who's tweeted at the Two Mics. He says, I was concerned that I had judged you guys harshly last night. Having listened again tonight, I am pleased to confirm that I was right.
What?
This is the guy who I think was suggesting yesterday that we talked a lot of old cobblers.
Yeah.
He's now convinced that we still are, but he's still listening. So that's the main
that's
thing.
okay. That's okay, mate. Yeah. Please keep listening.
Yeah, absolutely right.
And keep threatening not to listen, because then we know you are listening.
Yes,
if you see what I mean.
Exactly right. It's a common complaint.
Yes.
Now, have you seen The Mirror today? I just want to point this out to you, partly because a story came across my desk today.
Right.
That as a result of our favourite newspaper, The New Day, being such a complete and utter failure, right? They've wasted something like £7 or £8 million launching it, running it for 9 weeks, and working out that actually it wasn't going to work at all. So they killed it off.
Such a good idea.
But we did get lithography out of it, right? But today they've done what would normally be described as a wraparound, right?
Yeah.
Which is what somebody, they sell it to an advertiser basically.
Yeah.
So what they do is they get, the outside, the front cover, the back cover, and usually the 2 inside pages, 2 and the back inside.
Yes.
As part of the deal. But instead they've done it in a really weird way. So they've got the front page, which is a normal front page.
I know.
But the back page is an advert.
Yeah.
And then you turn inside the advert, and the inside back page is another advert, and then the inside 2 and 3 is another advert.
I know.
It's the weirdest thing I've ever seen.
And
it says sponsored content on the top.
I was about to say the inside 2 and 3 is designed not to look like an advert.
Yeah. Except it does, though.
Exactly, and they normally have advertisement feature on the top, but they haven't. They've got what? Sponsored what?
Sponsored content.
Yeah, well, there you go.
That was the death of some journalism, in my view, when they started calling it content.
Yeah.
It's one thing to call digital content because it's a bunch of different stuff.
Well.
But, if you're running a newspaper, it's not content.
No.
It's stories, isn't it? It's pictures.
I totally agree, but I mean, that's the nature of the world these days.
And they're making more people redundant at the Mirror because of the cost of producing that newspaper.
Yes.
So not only did they hire people to fire, they're now going to have to fire people that had been hired before.
Indeed.
It's a shambles.
And whilst we're on the media developments, rather an exciting development at TalkSport today.
Well, indeed, it was announced that News UK, or News
Corporation,
News Corporation,
now.
have bought us. So it remains to be seen what will happen in the coming months, but it'll be a very exciting time, I'm sure.
Exactly. Let me read you just one paragraph here from a business bulletin.
Yeah.
News Corporation, publisher of The Times and The Sun, has made an unexpected move into the radio sector after agreeing to pay £220 million in cash for the owner of the TalkSport and Virgin radio stations.
Absolutely.
The Wireless Group, which also operates local stations in Ireland, said that the deal provided a shot in the arm for British commercial radio.
Now, you know what I was going to ask you about?
Yes.
Did you see the story yesterday in the papers about the parking rage? Did you see this one? This was down in...
It's about the woman who went onto the pavement and moved her car down the pavement to try and get... It's an amazing story. I'd love to have seen the video of it.
Yeah,
There's no video, was there?
There wasn't video, but it was
still
actually...
picture.
It wasn't the woman herself, because the reason the row was caused was because the woman, and I'm sure you've seen this in other places, was standing in a parking spot.
That's right.
Reserving it for her uncle, who was in a smart car down the road.
That's right.
And a guy in a big BMW tried to pull in.
Yes.
And she wouldn't let him in.
No.
So she then motioned for the uncle to drive down the pavement.
That's right.
In the smart car.
And get into the slot.
And in the end, the aerial picture showed the two cars kind of diagonally in the same space.
Colliding.
Absolutely ridiculous, isn't it?
It was, yeah. It was...
I imagine you must have had those kind of punch-ups in car parking scenarios.
Well, no, I'm not an aggressive sort of person.
I don't mean punch-ups, but I mean, rows about it.
Well, you have rows about parking all the time. The thing that really bugs me these days is the number of bays reserved for mother and toddler very close to the entrance to
but there's a very good reason
hypermarkets.
There is a very good reason for that. And, you're going to be on a losing wicket on that one.
No, I'm not. Because no, I'm not.
Yeah. You are.
I'm not saying...
Because you don't understand what it's like to try and get a child in and out of a car. If you're not in a space which is wide enough for the child to get out of it.
I haven't finished.
Well, I know what you're going to say, because you've said it before.
No, you don't.
Ad infinitum.
No, you don't.
Yeah, I do.
What I'm saying is...
What are you saying?
Is that, of course, mothers with young kids or even parents, two of them young kids, should be able to park closer to the entrance. Yeah. But the problem is there are no checks on who uses those, and people park in them indiscriminately because you don't need, as you do in a disabled bay, a disabled badge or a mother and toddler badge to put in the car.
Yeah, well, people who misuse the system do not illustrate why the system is wrong.
I see all the time that being misused. I am a law-abiding citizen.
No,
I never take a mother and toddler bay, but I see so many charlatans and cheats in life who do.
Yeah, but that doesn't mean the system is wrong. That means that there are very bad people in the country who would like to take advantage of any particular situation.
Well,
and you've done that in the past. You may not have done it in these situations.
They do take advantage. I tell you what I came across, by the way, when I wasn't shopping, but I could have been shopping. Did you know that there is a World Nettle Eating Championship going on at the moment?
I did not know that.
Yeah, World Nettle Eating Championship.
That doesn't sound wise, does it?
And the champion is a guy called Phil Thorne, who devoured...
It's not John Nettles, then.
Well, no, that's rather a rubbish joke.
I don't think so.
Who, when he won his title, devoured how many feet long of stinging nettles? Do you think he devoured?
Is that how they measure it? Because
Yes.
I was going to say I thought they measure it by the number of leaves.
No.
By feet.
Feet.
Oh well, I mean, it's so bizarre the story. It could be anything.
It could be.
I'll say 6 feet.
86 feet.
What an idiot! 86 feet.
86 feet.
I can't even imagine how big that is.
Honest to God, it's billed as Nettlefest, right? And it takes place at the Bottle Inn pub in Marshwood in Dorset.
Oh, yes. It
How about
sounds
that?
like a West Country type.
Yeah.
Doesn't it?
Give
some nettles.
Give me a pint of nettles.
Have you ever had nettle? I've had nettle wine, I think, in the past.
I might have done. But, I just cannot believe that you can stick nettles in your mouth. I mean, have you ever been stung by nettles and hated it?
Yeah.
I mean, God, I hate it.
Well, one of the things that traumatised me as a child,
right?
We were in Guernsey,
falling into a nettle patch.
I fell into a whole patch of nettles when I was only about 2.
And don't you get like white blobs on your skin?
You do, yeah.
Oh.
And I mean, one of the most amazing things, and I've always taught my kids this, is that if you get dock leaves, nobody can quite explain why dock leaves work.
Yes,
but you know what dock leaves are,
but they
right?
do. They
work, yeah. And they're actually the only thing that works.
Yeah. Well, do you know one time? I'm not joking. I was in Cornwall. I'd taken my sisters on holiday. We'd celebrated a particular birthday or something,
right?
And we went walking across some cliff top or something. And then you go so far down a cliff top and you think, I don't know when I'm going to get back here. You have to come back to a nettle patch, and it was the most hateful thing for me because I was getting stung, but I couldn't do anything about it. But then,
did you have shorts on or something?
She had shorts on. Yeah, it was horrible. It really was horrible. Honestly, I hated it, and I almost felt like throwing myself off the cliff would have been better. You know what I mean? Seriously,
No, you haven't got much of a pain threshold then.
No, I haven't. No, 100 feet onto the rocks below.
Why did this man find himself throwing himself off because he was being stung by nettles?
But then, funnily enough, as a kid when I was stung by nettles, there never seemed to be dock leaves around because it was always down a...
No, it's interesting, isn't it?
It was always down an entry or in a park or something like that.
Where I am down in Sussex, there's loads of nettles.
Right, okay.
In fact, so much so that when we first moved to the house, the nettles were literally about sort of almost 5 or 6 feet high.
You had to cut them down?
And they had to be chopped down, and we had to treat them so they didn't grow back again. But taking the dog out and stuff, and when puppies are very young, nettles are quite dangerous to them because they don't know that they shouldn't get stung by them. Now that he's older, it doesn't matter. Yeah. But I mean, it's funny watching where the dock leaves grow because they only grow in certain places.
Well, it's amazing because the thing was when we got out of the nettles eventually, and I was quivering actually with sort of pain and shock.
And what were your sisters doing?
Well, they were trying to help, but
weren't they getting stung?
No, they'd taken a different route, and I'd said, I'll take this shortcut or something. Yeah,
you made a mistake.
I made a mistake, yeah. But anyway, when I got to the top, they found all these dock leaves, and they started rubbing them up and down my legs, and it was an immediate relief. I couldn't believe it. I didn't know that.
It is amazing.
I thought it was an old wives' tale.
No, it's always been true. The problem when I was 2 was that I think I was basically covered in nettle stings.
Yeah.
And when you're that small, you can't get the relief and
quite dangerous.
Yeah,
as well.
It was, and I was always terrified of nettles after that. But I've got over it now, luckily.
Exactly. Now this guy, right, 86 feet. The next best contestant, 73 feet of nettles. 73 feet.
What, did I just eat them raw?
Well, I can't work this out. It says 40 people enter the annual event. It started in 1997 after a local farmer lost a bet with another over who had the longest nettles, with the loser having to eat a whole stem.
Right.
Now, a guy called, this current champion, Mr. Thorne from Colleton,
Mr.
Devon. Thorne.
You're joking?
No.
His name is Thorne.
I told you his name was.
I didn't hear it the first time.
Yeah, I said the current champion is a guy called Phil Thorne.
Phil Thorne?
Yeah, Phil Thorne, yeah, is the nettle eating champion of the world.
Famous Hawthorne.
Yeah, he may be, yeah. He says, he's very enthusiastic about his hobby. He says, I get quite carried away with it, to be honest. The crowd cheer me on. I find it very exciting.
So, I'm trying to picture the scene. I presume it's a pub or something, where he's just literally
a pub garden.
shoving
nettles down
as well.
Yeah, that's right, yeah.
Maybe there's some kind of technique whereby you don't get stung. I mean, if you know the phrase grasp a nettle?
Yes.
Have you ever tried that?
No.
You should.
Why? What happens?
Well, because if you grasp a nettle in a particular way with your hand and crunch the nettle into your hand, it doesn't sting you.
Why would any idiot do that anyway?
Well, because it's the sort of thing that you do, isn't it?
No, it's not. It's not the sort of thing I would do.
Why not?
Because it's a pointless, ridiculous exercise.
No, but it's also
to try and prove that you've got mind over matter, which you haven't.
But it's also a sort of an allegory for life, isn't it? You have to grasp. Sometimes you have to grasp the nettle.
Yeah, there's no purpose in grasping a nettle.
It's to prove that you're brave. It's to prove that you're not scared.
Grasping a nettle means that a neighbour is playing loud music consistently, and all you're doing is turn over in bed and say, "Oh well, live and let live." And then And on the third night, you say, I'm going to grasp the nettle. So you go round, you bang on his door. When he opens the door, you punch him in the face.
What?
Well, I don't want to advocate violence, but I mean, you make it clear to the neighbour. You know, I'm fed up with this. That's grasping the nettle.
Well, it can be that. Yeah, but you're a law-abiding citizen, obviously.
I am.
Unfortunately, we're out of time.
I would try and talk him out of it.
Of course, you would. Yeah. Well, you could probably bore him to death and do it that way. This is Talk Sport. The Porky Quiz is getting closer. This is Talk Sport. We are the two Mikes. There will be a podcast coming out a little bit later on. And for those of you who aren't sure about it, we're going to be back on Sunday, not on the warm-up, but from 1 till 4 in the afternoon. Not quite sure what will be going on, but we'll be looking ahead, I dare say, to the France-Iceland game, won't we?
France-Iceland game?
Yeah.
Yes.
You're not listening, are you?
Yes, I am.
I can tell when you're not listening.
No, I am.
All right. Well, I've got a couple of tweets for you here.
Okay.
Bill says this: dock leaves contain an alkali which neutralises the acid in a nettle sting.
Is that right? That's good to know.
Peter says, when I was a kid, we would build our fort in the middle of a nettle patch so that the only way in was to get stung.
Oh, that's...
Does that mean to stop other people from getting in?
Yeah, exactly. Well, that's like why you build a fort on top of a hill, so that people running up, you can chuck rocks at them and pour boiling tar over their face.
But if you're in the middle of a nettle patch, you get stung when you're going out, don't you?
Yeah, well, what you do is presumably, right, you go around the back of the nettle patch and you beat a path in. Then you build your cave or your fort or something.
Well, and then you let it grow back in.
Or the attackers are coming from a different direction and they've got to cross the nettle patch to get to you.
I see.
That's a good thinking.
Oh, right. OK, now Connell says this, 17 seconds into Mike Graham's story about his son, and Parry butts in, when I was growing up, and then he says, hashtag self-centred oaf.
Who?
You.
About what?
About my story about my child in the piano recital.
No, I'm very interested in how your children are getting on in life, but how long did you stay?
Well, it went on for about 45 minutes, I would say.
45 minutes?
Yeah.
Well, you went all the way home to Sussex today for 45 minutes, then come back?
Yeah.
Could you spend a bit more time with your children?
Well, he's at school.
Yeah.
Right, so, I mean, I could have stayed at school, but I think the teachers would have said, why are you still hanging around?
Yeah.
The recital is over. Yeah. I could have waited until they got out of school. Yes. But the problem with doing that is that you then start getting complicated into rush hour, you start getting into parts of the roads that get closed down there. And I said to them both, I said, look, I'll see you guys tomorrow, which is this morning, because I'm going to go straight down this morning.
I see.
And I'll take them to school then.
Okay.
Paul says this, Mike's Donington holds a festival of stinging food every year.
No.
It's Heavy Nettle Man.
Heavy Nettle.
Because you know about Castle Donington, don't you?
Yeah, Castle Donington. It's a racetrack, isn't it?
But it's where they have a big heavy metal concert every year.
Oh, I see. Okay, yeah.
And then Paul says, he adds, if people get stung, they go to the nearby Monsters of Dock Leaf Festival.
Dock Leaf Festival. Yeah. Now, Caroline has got something actually which is factual. She says, have you ever had Cornish Yarg cheese?
Cornish Yarg cheese. I'm not sure. I think yes is the answer.
It is wrapped in nettles, and no, you don't sting your mouth, because this guy who's the world champ,
Mr. Thorne.
Mr. Thorne, Phil Thorne, he says you get jaw ache because you're chewing for an hour. It doesn't hurt as much as you might think it does. You get a real tingling around your mouth, and the juice from the nettles leaves a bit of blackness on your face. Yeah, but don't try it at home, he says. Unless you're experienced in doing it, it can be quite unpleasant.
Yeah, I don't think. Imagine. Yeah, I mean, as I say, I'm pretty sure. I mean, you get nettle tea, which I think I've tried.
Yes, yeah, but that's just boiling nettle leaves. That's not going to sting you, is it?
Well, it's not just boiling nettle leaves. I mean, because they have to dry the nettle leaves, supposedly. You don't just. I mean, you don't make tea just from leaves, do you?
No,
you have to dry them first, and then. Yes. As I say, I think I've had nettle wine as well, which was all right. It was one of those I had when we were kids. Yes. My parents had some friends who made their own wine. Oh, and so as we got a bit older and we would still go to their house...
Was it elderflower wine?
They used to do elderflower, they do nettle...
Yeah, that's right.
They do plum wine. Yeah. They had all kinds of different wines. And I remember thinking, this all tastes kind of the same.
Yeah, I know what you mean.
It's not very good, really.
Those home-brewed wines, by the way, they can get quite potent, you know?
Well, if you do it wrong, I suppose.
I think I told you, I brought a flagon of potsheen home from Ireland once. I had to smuggle it in.
How'd you get it in?
Well, I don't know. It was in an earthen container, and I just told the customs it was something else. I don't know.
Luckily, you're a law-abiding citizen.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah,
keep repeating.
And my mate came round, right? And it was I lived in Redditch. I was working with the Birmingham Evening Mail. Top shot local sort of journey.
When you were running the Redditch office.
Yeah,
right?
that's right. Yeah, I was actually. Yeah,
no, I'm sure you were. Yeah.
And he came round, and I'd just come in from being away at some job or something. And I said, listen, mate, I'm just jumping in the shower. I said, look, I brought this stuff back from Ireland. It's called pochine. Have a glass of it.
Yeah, but that's not wine, is it? I mean, that's like raw spirit.
It's a raw whiskey.
Yeah.
Colourless whiskey.
Yeah.
Anyway, by the time I came out the shower, I'm not joking, he was frothing at the mouth. he was lying on the floor.
Right.
And he was so ill that he had to stay at my place overnight. I mean, he couldn't see. It's lethal stuff if you drink it in any quantity.
If you're not careful and you get that sort of stuff, that sort of bootleg stuff.
Yeah, it's true.
I mean, it can send you blind.
Yeah, it can.
So, do you ever have absinthe? A friend of mine went to...
Is that the green stuff?
Yeah, it's the green stuff. A friend of mine went to, I think it was Holland,
yes,
or Belgium or something like that.
Yes.
And he brought me back a bottle of absinthe, and we did something similar. We came back to my place, and 3 or 4 of us sat there drinking
absolutely,
it.
yeah.
And it tasted absolutely disgusting.
Yeah.
But of course, it was this kind of macho thing where you go, well, how many shots of this can you do?
What was
It was horrendous.
What's the other green one? Absinthe is one, and there's another green one.
Well, there's creme de menthe.
Creme de menthe, right? That's it. Now, remember Dudley Freeman?
Yeah.
Dudley Freeman, of course, being an old colleague from New York who used to run the cutting service.
That's right.
But of course, went bankrupt when they invented computers, so you didn't need to.
Well, he really go bankrupt. I mean, he sold his
he did very well. He went to France, didn't he?
And bought a chateau.
Yeah, in France.
Where I've been actually.
Yeah, exactly.
Did you ever go there?
No, I never went.
It was
no,
incredible. I mean, when I arrived
place,
with my wife and child, he said you can have the West Wing.
West
and
Wing.
it literally had its own chapel, had its own swimming pool.
Brilliant.
And it had its own, and we had our own wing.
And did he have a special little part of it for Polish girlfriends?
He did, funnily enough.
He was very keen on Polish girlfriends.
He was very keen. He employed only Polish girls.
That's right, yeah.
And his wife, who was lovely, French woman,
yes,
said, and she used to say things like, my little Dudley, he's such an idiot with girls, but I let him have his little ways. But he always comes back to me.
She used to say, oh, Dudley, he is a butterfly, and all these little ladies, they love him. But then I can understand why they do.
The trouble is that she was always catching him at it.
Yes, she was, yeah.
Which wasn't very helpful.
Well, the problem was that some of the Polish girls, who were usually aged between about sort of 18 and 22, and Dudley was about sort of 55, wasn't he, would often sort of walk in and catch him with another Polish girl, and then what would ensue would usually be a fight
between two
Polish girls with stiletto heels. And I've seen the holes in the walls in Dudley's office where they've tried to smash each other up. They smashed the walls and windows and all sorts of things. But he was a terrific guy, terrific character, wasn't he?
Oh, he was.
And we went out once for a steak in that... have you ever been there, to that restaurant in the complex where he lived, down on Waterside?
Oh, yeah, Waterside Plaza.
Yeah, that's right,
I think, because he always took people there, didn't he?
That's right,
he never wanted to leave the sort of...
The
it was
business,
like a concrete island, wasn't
Yes,
it?
that's right, sort of. And so we had a lovely steak and all that, and then we had a lot of wine. And then we decided to get uptown to Costello's, because he hadn't seen the guys for a while, I said, yeah, come on, let's get up there. So on the way, we called a couple of bars, and he started drinking creme de menthe.
Oh, yeah.
And
it's very sweet, isn't it? It's horrible.
Yeah, well, it was also something I was familiar with.
Yeah.
Anyway, the day wore on, and then the evening wore on, then the night wore on. And by about sort of 10 o'clock at night, I noticed for the first time Dudley had a green stripe, right, I'm not joking,
right,
which went from his bottom lip, down his chin, under his neck.
Oh, well, because he was sort of dribbling it by this time.
Yeah, it went onto his tie, because when he used to be quite dapper and quite smart, Dudley, and he'd started the day with a sort of bluish, sort of light blue tie, but quite light blue, so it was, you could see a stain on it. You could see a stain on it. The green had gone all the way down his tie, no joke. It had gone to his the belt of his trousers and down his trousers to the top of his right thigh. He'd got so bladderated that he just kept missing his mouth and pouring it onto...
I don't know how anybody could drink more than just one of those.
Pouring it onto his chin, and it was all over the place.
Horrendous.
Is he still alive?
I think so. I haven't heard that he's not.
I hope so.
I think
he was a terrific character.
Still living. He was in a place that was kind of within, I would say, sort of an hour and a half or so south of Paris.
Yeah.
Near somewhere like I can't remember the name of the place. I'm thinking of Toulon, but I don't think it was that.
Toulon.
But it was basically an old hunting lodge,
right,
that had been used by the sort of your guys that you watch in Versailles, the Louis the Louis XIII crowd.
I know.
And it was an amazing place.
Okay.
Absolutely amazing.
Do you still shake hands with people when you meet them?
Occasionally, yes.
Because it's going out of fashion.
Well, you keep telling me that.
No, but you know what else is going out of fashion?
What is?
The strength of the grip.
Not in my case.
It is,
not
honestly.
in my case.
And do you know why?
I always give people a very firm handshake.
No, do you know why?
Why?
The rise in technology is one thing.
Right.
But the main thing...
Are you saying that people's grip is becoming less good?
Yeah, I'm saying less good because the rise in technology has meant a fall in manual labour.
Yeah.
And the whole idea of, historically, the whole idea of a handshake...
But more and more people go to the gym now and have a bit of grip as opposed to because they actually work out.
No, I'm talking about wielding an axe.
Yeah.
Or wielding a scythe. Yeah. Or... being a horny-handed son of toil.
Yeah.
That's what they used to call it, wasn't it?
That's right, yeah.
The horny-handed son of toil.
Right.
Or being a
farmer.
farmer.
I've never been any one of those.
Really. Or being a farmer, or being maybe a lumberjack, chopping down a tree or something like that.
Right.
Now, historically, of course, think to the first meeting of Robin Hood and Little John.
Yeah. Well, Little John was actually very large, wasn't he?
That's why it's called Little John.
His hand would have dwarfed.
Yeah, exactly. But what I'm saying is,
the time, by the way.
Yeah, don't worry about the time.
Oh, I'm worried about it.
What I'm saying is, it was an indication of the power game when you shook hands in the Middle Ages.
Yeah.
And if you had a big hand and a huge grip and could break a man's bones in his hand, then you'd won.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Absolutely.
So that's now gone out of fashion.
My dad used to do a bit of that. He used to crush my hand when we shook hands.
Why? For a bit of a laugh?
Well, because he wanted to train me to have a good grip.
Really?
Which I then did. I now still have.
Yeah, I hate people with limp handshakes because, in my view, they're not connecting with you at all. No. They're sort of tolerating you,
Yeah, but also it's an indication of, I would say, a weak personality.
Yes, I agree. I totally agree.
Anyway, talking of which, we've got to stop here because we have the Porky Quiz to get in. It's all about Welsh music, Welsh pop stars, and it's coming next.
But you stole the sun from my
It is time for the Porky Quiz, and Porky, although this is not part of the quiz, I'm going to ask you if you recognise that song.
Sorry?
You're just not concentrating, are you?
I am concentrating.
Do you recognise this song?
Is this a question in the quiz?
No, it's just a preamble to the quiz.
Okay.
As a matter of interest, I thought I'd ask you. I didn't realise it was going to take 55 seconds to kind of, get there.
I don't want to answer that question because it might give an indication of my knowledge of the next questions.
I imagine it would.
Yes.
As ever, we have 10 questions, which have correct answers. There is no multiple choice.
Right.
It was changed at the last minute, so the independent quizmasters had to work very, very hard and work overtime, in fact, to get all these ready. You asked for Welsh pop stars, right? If you get one correct, you will hear this sound. If you get one incorrect, you will hear this sound.
It's not unusual.
Okay. Yep.
Are you ready for question number 1?
Yes.
Do you want to have a listen to this?
He said the devil when we met her at the roundabout. She's got powers, magnetic devours you every
Now,
yes.
The song is called Golden Retriever.
Yes.
It was a hit in 2003.
Yes.
For which Cardiff band?
Cardiff band?
Yeah.
I would say that is Cardiff band.
Cardiff band. Is that your answer?
No.
Thinking aloud.
Right, I'm thinking aloud. This is either the Manic Street Preachers or the Stereophonics.
Uh-huh.
Right, and as the Manic Street Preachers are the most famous band ever to come out of Cardiff, and I think the Stereophonics are from a little village in Wales called Manwyd, which is near Swansea. I'd say Manic Street Preachers.
Incorrect.
No! Who is it?
It's the Super Furry Animals.
Super Furry.
You're not going to do very well if you think there's only 2 Welsh bands ever.
Well, I've never heard of the Super Furry
Haven't
Animals.
you?
Anyway,
okay.
Right.
They've heard of you. Question number 2.
Right.
Listen to this.
Okay.
Recognise the song?
Yes, I do.
What is it?
And I will always
Very
love
good.
you.
Yeah. It's not being sung in that language, though, of course.
No.
Do you know what language it's being sung in?
It's been. Is that the question?
No.
Right.
This is just.
It's being sung in Welsh.
No. It's being sung in Italian.
Italian.
But
that's
who's
right,
singing it is the question.
Right. Well, that's either Charlotte Church, or thinking aloud, Charlotte Church, or the lady's called Duffy. Right.
Yeah.
So it's either Charlotte Church or Duffy, or there was another one. Well, it's definitely. I tell you, it's definitely not. It's definitely not Bonnie Tyler, right?
Okay.
Because she's got a gravelly voice, and that sounded like a smooth voice.
Yeah.
So
why are you looking at me for clues? I can't give you any clues. I
believe that to be.
Yeah.
I believe that to be because she was a classically trained singer.
Yeah.
Charlotte Church.
Incorrect.
No. Who is it?
Catherine Jenkins.
Catherine Jenkins.
Yeah. Remember her?
Well, she's not a pop singer.
Yeah, she is.
She's not a pop
is.
singer. She's a classical singer.
She's had pop hits and she's been in the pop charts. Question number 3.
Right.
This star was born in 1943. We don't have any music for this, right?
Okay.
In the Rhondda Valley.
Rhondda.
Left school at 15
Ooh.
and later worked down the mines.
Ooh.
Who is he?
Ooh. Now then. 1943, 15.
Is you doing Dylan Thomas or Gareth Bale?
Work down the mines, boyo. Right, hang on. Thinking aloud, it is not Sir Tom Jones, because he was born in 1940. And he didn't work down the mines. He was a singer from the time he left school. He left school at 15, got married at 16. So that means it's another sort of ageing Welsh singer. Actually, it's quite old, that, isn't it? Are there any singers apart from Tom Jones of that age? Well, it's not Max Boyce. Thinking aloud. It's not Max Boyce. It could be Max Boyce, actually. No, even more of a comedian, I think. Right, okay. I think I'm going to have to conclude with saying Sir Tom Jones.
Incorrect.
No!
I don't know if we've got any of this guy's
I'm
stuff.
going home to Swansea Town.
Do you know who that is?
To where
Max Boyce?
Yeah.
No, you're joking. Well, I said
You said it's not Max Boyce.
I said it's not. I said Max Boyce is a comedian.
Well, he's a singer. He's a pop star. Question number 4.
Yeah.
Have a listen to this.
'Cause you and I know it's all over the front page.
Now, I've been asked to speed this up a bit, so I'm not going to listen to the music for so long. That's Catatonia, right? They had several hits in the 90s. What's the name of their lead singer?
Catatonia.
Very big band.
Because a big band.
Yeah.
Now, thinking aloud. Lead singer, female?
Well, you listen to the song.
It sounded like female. I think the lead singer was, and then she went on her own, Duffy.
Incorrect.
No!
It's not unusual. It's Caddis Matthews. Question number 5.
Right.
Can you name one of the Stereophonics hits? This is not a song that you have to name. I just want you to name one of their hits.
Right, one of their hits.
Yeah.
Was it? Are you talking about one of their albums, or talking about
one of their singles?
One of their singles. Yeah. Well, off one of their albums, you mean?
Well, one of their singles. One of their hit singles. They've had many
singles. Yeah, it's. I believe that one of their hits, because they had quite a few.
They did, yeah.
Was it something like?
Sorry.
Hang on.
You just need to name one of their hits.
Take Me Back to the Valleys.
Incorrect.
Oh.
They haven't got a song called Take Me Back to the Valleys. You could have had Maybe Tomorrow. You could have had Have a Nice Day. You could have had Handbags and Glad Rags. You could have had Mr. Writer. You could have had Bartender and the Thief. Okay. You could have had a whole section of them, but I'm afraid that one's not correct. Take Me Back to the Valleys. Number 6. What was the name of the Manic Street Preachers' debut album?
It was something like Getting Nothing or something. I'm thinking aloud. Because the trouble is, their stuff was very political. You know, it was all about being on the dole and all that kind of stuff. So it was.
Because they were.
Yeah. I think it was like Getting Nothing. I believe it was Getting Nowhere. What's your problem?
I'm afraid it wasn't. It was called Generation Terrorists. Getting Nowhere is where you're going. You got none out of 6.
Well, these questions are bizarrely
they're not.
offbeat.
Question number 7, right?
Yeah.
Tom Jones, or Sir Tom Jones as you call him, has had 3 number 1 hit singles in the UK.
Right.
Can you name them?
Well, one of them is the one you're using to condemn me for getting small inaccuracies, and it's not unusual. That was his first one, right?
Okay, that is correct. That is one.
One that revived his career was the green grass of home.
That is also correct. That is
right,
two.
That's two. And the third one, I don't think Delilah got to number one. Third one was, let me see, it's not unusual. The green grass of home, and let me just think, hang on. It's not unusual, the green grass of home. And the third one was, What's New Pussycat?
Incorrect.
No!
It's not unusual. The third number one he had was actually in 2009 with Islands in the Stream.
No.
Which he did with Rob Brydon. Yes, it's true.
That was a hit for Dolly Parton.
That's right. It was also a hit for Tom Jones in 2009.
Well, I get half a point, don't I?
I'll give you half a point, yes. I think that's fair enough.
Yes.
Question number 8. Where a Goldie-looking chain from?
What? What was that?
Goldie-looking chain. This is their sound.
They're a group, are they?
They are.
Goldie-looking chain. You want me to tell you where they're from?
I want to tell you where they're from. Yeah, I'm looking for the name of a town.
Yeah. They're not Cardiff boys. Thinking aloud. They could be from Pontypridd. Or they could be from Cwmbran. But I think they're from Swansea.
Incorrect.
No!
They're from Newport.
Newport.
You've got half a point so far. Your maximum you can get now is 2.5, right?
It's not good.
Question number 9.
Yeah.
This band were originally formed in Swansea in 1961 and became the first group signed to Apple. What's their name?
No matter what you do,
that song was written and produced.
We talked about this.
Hang on. Written and produced by Paul McCartney. It was Badfinger.
Correct.
Hey! Woo! Woo! Woo!
Okay, number 10.
Yeah.
Amen Corner's founder member was born in Yusrad Maynak.
Yes.
He went on to have a successful solo career. Who is he?
Andy Fairweather Low.
Correct.
Woo, 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 woo. You see, if you ask me sensible questions, I get answers.
They're all the same
I get
questions.
answers.
They're all the same
all
questions.
this rubbish about, people singing in bands of names I've never heard of.
What, like Goldie-looking chain?
Yeah,
But
drivel.
you've heard of bands from the 60s, is that what you're telling me?
No.
Well, Amen Corner and Badfinger were from the 60s.
Well, okay, so, maybe I've got retentive memory situation from being a child or something. But, I mean, it's very, very unfair to give me dopey questions about groups that were like half good.
Well, like Super Furry Animals, big band.
Yeah.
Catatonia, massive band.
Half good in years when I was probably living in America anyway.
Well, you asked for the
good
quiz.
enough.
You asked for the quiz, you got 2.5. I predicted 3, so actually you didn't do quite as well as I thought. I can leave you with this thought from Ian. Porky should have stuck to Iceland. This is Talk Sport.
It's not unusual. The Two Mics, simulcast across the UK on Talk Sport and Talk Radio.
This is Talk Sport. We are the Two Mics. You know what we've forgotten to do?
What?
Is in our haste to do everything else.
Listography.
We've forgotten to do listography.
Yeah.
So shall we try and pick one very, very quickly?
Yes.
And then just get on with it.
Yes.
3 leaders you admire is one from Martin.
Yep.
3 times in your life when you've either been the victim or benefactor of, as it's now called, a gove, which I presume is being stabbed in the back. I'm not sure if Porky would ever admit to this, but 3 times you've feigned illness from work and the reasons behind it.
Yeah.
Well, I don't think we've ever done that. 3 superstitions you both have. That might be interesting.
Yeah.
What are your plans for the summer?
Yeah.
And then, if you made a religion, who would make up your modern-day Holy Trinity?
What about plans for the summer?
Plans for the summer, yeah.
Get on with the plans for the summer.
Yeah, okay. Can we do 3 plans for the summer, then?
Definitely.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right, well, let's do that. Well, let's start it now, then, because we've only got time to do it.
Okay, well, you've already made a plan for the summer. Tell us what it is.
Well, what I was going to say is, I mean, I think we could almost... here's what we could do. We could do a collective, sort of, one collective one and 2 separate ones. How about that? Because I don't think you can have 6 different plans for the summer.
Oh, I see.
So rather than that, why don't we call it you do one, I do one, and then we do one that's together. Do you see what I mean? That involves both of us.
Okay, fine.
What I mean is...
Yes, okay, fine.
We're going to have some summer music as
fine,
well.
okay, that's great.
Just as if we've, planned it that way.
Yeah.
Now, my one for myself is that I'm going to go and rent a very nice villa in an island in the Mediterranean, which will remain nameless.
Yes.
Because obviously I don't like to give too many details away. And I'm going to be away for a couple of weeks in August.
Is it in the Balearics region?
I beg your pardon. I've never been talked about in that manner before.
Exactly.
Disgusting man. Yes, it is. But, I mean, you can't help yourself, can you? You have to give it away. You can't help yourself.
Well, there's lots of islands in the Balearics, don't
there certainly are. I'll give you a kick in the Balearics if you're not careful.
Oh, that's very nice.
Anyway, yes, so I'm going to be away for a couple of weeks in August. I'm looking forward to it because I'll be able to take lots of members of my family, which is going to be great. It'll be, I'm hoping, I don't know what the weather's been like there actually, but I hope it's better than this.
Yeah.
And I might actually come back with a bit of a tan.
Yeah, okay.
So what's yours?
I intend to work on through those 2 weeks you're away in this country, irrespective of the weather, because I feel better about myself when I'm working.
Yes.
I cannot lie by a pool or go swimming on a beach or do anything
you
silly
can't go
like
swimming
that.
on a beach,
No.
You
Well,
go to the sea.
In the sea, on a beach. And so I have absolutely no plans to go on a holiday vacation.
Really?
Yes.
I thought we were going to get you away this year.
Well, maybe later on.
Maybe one of these years we'll go together.
Because I understand that you might be taking a second holiday in October.
Very possibly.
Which is much better for my climatic sort of situation.
Right.
I may then decide to go to the Shetland Islands.
The Shetlands?
Yes.
Okay, well, be very careful of going there in October because you might get stranded. You
Right.
know what happens? Well, if the winds get up and the sea gets rough,
It's all right.
you won't be able to get off the
Well,
island.
it's a challenge against Mother Nature.
Yeah, it is.
Yes.
Now, the one that we're doing together,
Yes.
obviously, I mean, it depends on when you begin summer.
Yeah.
But, I mean, basically, the Two Mics live show.
Yes.
We're going to be doing loads of shows on Talk Sport.
Yes.
But also the Two Mics live show, I would say, before the end of the summer.
Yeah.
We're doing rugby, of course, on in 2 weeks tomorrow, actually.
Yes, all right, 2
July
weeks
the
tomorrow.
16th.
Yeah.
But then, the big one is the Edinburgh Festival.
Yes, it is.
So you can tell us what we're going to do there. We're doing 3 nights, right?
3 nights at theatre in Edinburgh.
Yeah.
Late night theatre, 11 o'clock.
It's going to be 11 o'clock show.
There'll be a lot of bladderators in there.
There will be. I hope we won't be any of them. It's called the George Square Studios 1 at the Assembly.
Yeah.
And you can get tickets from the Edinburgh Festival.
Excellent.
Or you can just go through the twomics.co.uk.
And if we then decide that we've earned ourselves a rest, where are we going to go?
What, you mean after the Edinburgh Festival?
Indeed.
I don't think we'll need a rest.
Well,
will we?
Well,
we'll probably come straight back here to go to work.
Yes, but what I'm saying is that if we then decided at some subsequent weekend we'd burnt ourselves out through the summer, where would we go then for a break?
Well, there's a couple of places we could go. We could go to Malta.
I was thinking of Malta because we've got some business partners out in Malta, so we could perhaps go there. I've never been to Malta, actually.
No,
that
I
sounds
haven't
good.
either.
Sounds good.
We go to New York.
Well, yes and
it's
no.
Kind of a big long weekend.
It is.
Well, the trouble is, if you and I go anywhere,
yes,
it's not going to be like a rest, is it?
No. Well, it will be in terms of mental. It'll be a mental rest.
No, it won't.
So I was thinking of Dublin.
Dublin? Oh, I haven't known that about this.
Dublin's fair city.
Or Dublin, as one of my kids
The girls are so pretty, singing selling cockles
and
mussels.
Singing it. No, I think they are singing it.
Are they?
I think they do sing cockles and mussels
that are fair.
Well, I mean,
I was wheeling my barrow through streets broad and narrow.
You actually haven't done much singing on the show today.
No, I haven't actually, so I've just done a bit then.
So where did you come up with this idea? It's the first you've mentioned Dublin to me.
Well, I was thinking either the Isle of Man, Dublin.
I don't fancy the Isle of Man.
Some short haul flights, you see what I mean?
Yeah.
I mean, we're working in Scotland this year. We worked in Scotland last year.
We're going to Glasgow in December as well.
What I'm saying, we're working in Scotland. The other place I thought about was perhaps Amsterdam. Amsterdam for a weekend.
Yeah, that could work. That could work.
Okay, so we got Amsterdam, we got Dublin.
Yeah.
I love Paris, but, Paris is difficult at the moment because everybody's on strike and all that kind of thing.
Never quite know,
Yeah, you never quite know.
Well, I mean, I'd be delighted to get ahead for a little...
Berlin.
A little R&R. Berlin, possibly. Yeah, I've never been to Berlin.
Berlin's a bit authoritarian, to be honest, because it's German and it's very efficient.
And I think it depends which bit of it you go to.
Well, it doesn't matter now. East, west, doesn't matter.
No, I don't mean that, but it's got quite a sort of, I would say, underground scene.
Yeah, underground scene.
Because my daughter went there quite recently and found some quite interesting clubs.
Ooh,
I'd have to say.
Say no more.
Which I think we'd be way too old to get into.
The place I've never been to, which I'd fancy just once, but not again. Right. Venice.
Yeah, if you don't want to go there with me.
No, I don't.
If you go to Venice, you want to go with a woman.
Yeah, that's absolutely true, yeah. So we need some bladderation location, and that would be Dublin or Amsterdam, in my view.
I think you're
Although
absolutely
Amsterdam, is a bit...
maybe Dublin's the one.
Bit risque. I think Dublin could be the answer.
We could, because we have
even
friends
Belfast,
there.
to be honest.
We have friends there too.
Belfast. Yeah, we have friends in Dublin, yeah.
I'm not sure I want to go to Belfast with you. You may have, there may be people waiting for you.
Well, I have connections
from your
Belfast.
time there.
I'm
not talking about the security services. I'm thinking more in terms of people's husbands.
It's a few years back, so I think I'll probably get away with it now.
People have long memories, you know what I mean?
Or Copenhagen.
Copenhagen,
yeah.
You know what? A lot of it's going to depend on is how the old pound pans out.
Well, I think
it's going to come back.
Just have to.
But I saw. Did I not see
Mm.
I know it's not the rate they buy and sell at, but the rate for the euro at the moment is something like 1.29, 1.30.
Well,
which is quite good.
As the pound dropped, so did the euro.
Yeah.
So anywhere in Europe, you're going to be okay because they've sunk a bit together.
Yeah.
The big problem is against the dollar.
Yeah.
But I don't think Europe's a problem.
No. How about this from Kevin? He says, "Well, I wasn't too far off with the 2 points predicted in the Porky quiz. Not much moaning from Porky tonight." And Amiel says, "Without the background music, Porky would have only got half a point out of 10.
Yeah, no, not true. And I'm not a moaner or a whinger anyway. I don't believe in that.
Well, you normally are. Griff says, "A pathetic effort this week on the Porky quiz, and it was the easiest one yet.
Yeah,
you should have easily got 7 out of 10.
I don't agree. Listen, do you remember I told you a couple of weeks ago that the mafia had moved into forestry?
Yes.
So that was quite
a shocking
story. Sending
that.
burning cats into forests to set fire to tinder dry forest, so that they then got the contract to reforest the forest. Guess what else they're into now?
What are they into now?
And they're blowing people away if they don't comply.
Right.
They've started making bread. And they've told everybody they've got to take mafia bread.
It's a very different world out there now, isn't it?
I'm telling you, police have arrested, listen to this, 24 members of the La Russo clan.
Right,
the La Russo clan. One of the most powerful Camorra factions.
I've heard of the Camorra faction.
Yeah, that's right. And revealed that bosses had been forcing supermarkets, corner shops and street sellers in Naples to sell only their bread.
Right.
The feared La Rosu clan, which dominates the north of the city, was turning out loaves at 3 bakeries it owns and threatening any shops that tried to buy bread from honest suppliers.
Really?
Store owners were forced to pay €1.30, that's £1.08,
right,
a kilo for the bread compared with the normal price of €1. So they're putting a 30% premium on it.
But this is the trouble, isn't it, with the mafia? And I know this is sort of going to sound like a very stupid thing to say, but, I think they shouldn't be preying on their own communities.
Well, they always have.
Yeah, I know, but I mean, it's one thing to sort of export whatever it is that they do, the crime waves and everything else, to different countries and all of that. But I mean, imagine actually preying on your own sort of local communities.
It's a disgrace.
By making them spend more money on bread.
Now, guess who the local police chief was who launched this campaign against them?
I've no idea.
Wonderful, wonderful name.
Yeah.
His name is Giuseppe Forchetino.
Giuseppe.
Forchetino.
Forchetino, very nice. You should watch the Italian detective show I was telling you about.
Oh, yeah?
Yeah.
Okay.
Montalbano, it's called.
Right, yeah.
But there'll be more of that coming up. It's almost at the end of the show. This is Talk Sport.
Today you and I are not the same. You say you like the sun, I like the rain. So before we go, do it all again. You better catch your own train.
There's lots of what I would say is not particularly complimentary tweets about your performance in the quiz. I'm not going to read those out.
Gerrymandered. Everybody knows that. I've given up complaining.
That would be fair. However, David says this, and it's kind of a tragic link, actually.
Right.
He says the 2 main guys in Badfinger both committed suicide,
They did.
but they also wrote the Nielsen song Without You.
One of them was called Peter Ham,
Yeah.
and the other chap, I think, his surname was Evans.
Right.
So it was Peter Ham, and I think it was Martin Evans or something like that.
Funny enough, they started off with the band with another name, right?
Yeah, they did, yeah.
And I'm just going to, tell you what it was.
Became Badfinger. They were taken on by Apple Corps. You're absolutely right.
They were called the Ivies, and I think when they were taken on by Apple, they were still called the Ivies.
Yeah, but then they became Badfinger.
Yeah.
But what happened was, in the early part of their career, they got tied up in some terrible contractual details, as lots of bands did in the early 60s, including people like the Rolling Stones. You know, the Stones had to go and see that guy, Lord Rupert, whatever his name was,
I remember,
who sorted everything out for them.
Yeah.
But they went into despair because that song they wrote for Nielsen,
Without You.
Do you know about a dozen people associated?
It's a great song, by the way.
Brilliant song, which they never made a hit of themselves, but which Nielsen did with his own production company. About a dozen people associated with that song, producers, directors, studio hosts, have died.
Really?
Who've been connected with the song.
What, you saying it's like a sort of curse of Tutankhamun?
It's like the curse of Tutankhamun.
Really?
Peter Ham was the first to die. He hanged himself, right?
Yeah.
He was the co-writer.
Yeah.
The boy Evans, for the next 2 or 3 years, went into this sort of catatonic daze, and all he'd ever say to his friends was, "I wish I was where Peter was." And 3 years later, he hanged himself in exactly the same way. It was a tragic story.
How strange.
Tragic story, yeah. And Badfinger, by the way, they had 2 consecutive number 1 hits. First one was Come and Get It. If you want it, here it is, come and get it. Right. And I can't quite remember the second one now. But they were being feted all over the world as the new Beatles. Right. And in fact...
And they were. Some of the stuff they did was very good.
And in fact, the Beatles themselves wanted them to be the new Beatles to make Apple a hugely successful record label, you know.
McCartney, as you said, wrote for them. Did you see that story? We haven't got much time to talk about it. We'll have to pick it up next week. About Paul Simon, who's now chucked in...
Can't believe it. The age of 74.
He was telling us the other day that his album was back to the top of the charts.
It was. His new album was. But then he said, I want nothing more to do with pop music at the age of 74.
How strange.
He and Art Garfunkel only spoke for twice in the past 35 years.
And it was only to tell each other to bugger off.
Well, it wasn't actually. They actually got together and did a concert, but they hardly spoke while they were doing it. It was for charity, I think.
Belfast Billy says, Porky could be sneaked into Belfast like Prince Charles usually is.
Yeah.
Eh?
I didn't know that. I didn't know who sneaked in. I saw Mrs Thatcher being sneaked into Belfast once in a convoy of cars which came up across the bridge there while all the roads were closed. It was eerie because there was nobody about. There couldn't be. Well, couldn't be when she was around. You know what I mean?
JPK says this. Surely last week's EU episode has asseverated the view that the two mics should be 5 hours at least once a week. Friday frolics. Well, that can be arranged, I suppose.
Yes,
anything is possible. It's a brave new world out there.
Yep.
This is Talk Sport. We are the Two Mics.
Look at the light!
Don't forget to follow the Two Mics at the Two Mics on Twitter and on YouTube. Just look for Two Mics TV.
And Rob says, Porky, you should pour the sachet milk into your mouth and then stick your head in the microwave. The cake would then form in your mouth.
That's a good idea.
That's very cruel, Rob. And then you know what would happen if a human being stuck their head in a microwave.
Well, you wouldn't be able to speak for a while, which would be quite good, actually.
Jinx, yes, we'll get up here at 10:30 tomorrow morning and, we'll get down to business.
If you love the Two Mics podcast, you'll love the live show. Weekday overnights from 1am on DAB Digital Radio and 1089 and 1053 AM and via the TalkSport app. TalkSport, your Premier League station with exclusive commentaries every weekend.
What an absolute corker!
TalkSport.
So have you finished that yet?